and Library. There are a number of bills this afternoon that will be read for the second time. The bills include the Public-Private Partnership Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2021, the National Cohesion and Peace Building Bill, Senate Bill number 35 of 2018, the Kenya National Blood Transfusion Service Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2020, the County Government's Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 13 of 2018, the Waqf Bill, National Assembly Bill number 73 of 2019. Another bill that will also be read for the second time at the National Assembly chambers is the Social Assistance Repeal Bill, National Assembly Bill number 16 of 2020. Thereafter, the House will proceed on a committee of the whole House. A look on the Social Assistance Repeal Bill, National Assembly Bill number 16 of 2020 is that the principal object of this bill is to repeal the Social Assistance Act. Well, there is some activity at the entrance of the National Assembly. The session is about to start. Meanwhile, all right, the Speaker of the National Assembly there, Honorable Justin Muturi, has just entered the chambers. I will hand you over to the live broadcasting. This broadcasting is brought to you by Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in conjunction with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. My name is Kamche Menza. Good afternoon.
Let us pray. Almighty God, who in wisdom and goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with abundant favor us, your servants, whom you've been pleased to call to the performance of important trust in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests we are committed to our charge. Amen.
Start. Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions.
Member for Kibwezi East.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to present public petition on behalf of my residents, my voters, Mr. Speaker, and this petition number 18 of 2021. The petition, Mr. Speaker, is regarding human-wildlife conflict in Kibwezi's constituency. Mr. Speaker, I, the undersigned, on behalf of the residents of KBC's constituency, draw the attention of the House to the following. That the fourth schedule of the Constitution assigns the responsibility of protection of the environment and natural resources to the national government. That residents of Masongaleni, Thange, Mutito Andei, and Ivingoni Zambani wards of KBC's constituency continue to experience increased cases of attacks by elephants and other wild animals, resulting in loss of lives, loss of livestock, and destruction of crops and property, including water tanks and other means of livelihood in these areas. That numerous cases of human-wildlife conflict, as well as the applications for the compensation victims, have been reported to the relevant authorities in vain. Mr. Speaker, that most parts of KBC's constituency include schools bordering Savo East National Park, Savo West National Park, and Kulu Hills National Park remain unfenced, thus making it easier for wild animals to stray out into the people's farms and areas of residence. That learning in several schools in KBC's constituency that border the aforementioned parks has been paralyzed, Mr. Speaker, at times for weeks on end due to invasion by wild animals, particularly the elephants. So, Speaker, that the Kenya Wildlife Service, KWS, wardens are evidently overwhelmed by the situation, resulting in delay in responding to distress calls from residents. That efforts by residents of KBC's constituency to resolve the matter, including holding demonstrations against inaction by the Kenya Wildlife Service, have been futile. So, Speaker, number 8, that the matters raised in this petition are not pending in any court of law in Kenya. Now, therefore, your humble petitioners pray that the National Assembly, through the Departmental Committee on Environment and National Resources, intervenes with a view of ensuring that the Kenya Wildlife Service expeditiously compensates victims and affected families for loss of lives, loss of livestock, and destruction of crops and property. Prayer number 2, Mr. Speaker, that it recommends that the Kenya Wildlife Service expeditiously erects an electric fence in all areas in which schools are located in Masongaleni, Mtitiwandei, Thange, and Ivingoni Zambani wards of KBC's constituency, bordering Savo East National Park, Savo West National Park, and the Kulu Hills National Park to mitigate the conflict. Number 3, Mr. Speaker, that engages the Kenya Wildlife Service to ensure that perimeter fences are erected along the unfenced parts of Savo East National Park, Savo West National Park, and Kulu Hills National Park to ward off elephants and other wild animals that stray into human settlements. Number 4, Mr. Speaker, is that it intervenes through the relevant ministry to facilitate the Kenya Wildlife Service to increase the number of posts or camps in the area for efficient surveillance and quick response to distress calls whenever elephants stray into human settlements. And number 5, Mr. Speaker, makes any other recommendation that it deems fit in the circumstances of the petition. Your Speaker, your petitioners will ever pray, presented by Jesse Kambalu, the Member of Parliament for KBC's constituency, on behalf of my voters on the 4th May 2021. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I will allow very few limited comments. Member for Yembe Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for according me this opportunity to comment on that petition. Mr. Speaker, such a petition, I think several of them of a similar kind have been tabled in this August House, Mr. Speaker, and we have not been seeing any much results. And more so, Mr. Speaker, human and animal conflict in areas which are border these national parks is very perennial, Mr. Speaker. And last time, Mr. Speaker, when we met the KWS staff through my committee, we told them to budget even for some money so that at least they should not wait for the exchequer to give them 100% the amount of money they want so that they can compensate those people who get injured or armed or even killed by these animals. But usually they don't have a budget and they don't give compensation a priority. And it is the high time now they looked into it and they give priority when they are allocating funds to compensate people when they are hurt by or wounded by wild animals. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Mwea.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I support the member and actually feel for her if she has to receive complaints from her residents on destruction of wildlife, both live and probably even agricultural products, Mr. Speaker. The issue of animals, Mr. Speaker, while we appreciate what we get from them, and especially on the tourist side, I think the government needs to put in more effort to control and to reduce the human wildlife conflicts, Honorable Speaker. And it's not just the elephants and these other big animals, Honorable Speaker. We have people who are getting, we have conflicts, even from birds, Honorable Speaker. In my place in Mwea, Honorable Speaker, my residents are having to spend hours and hours looking after their farms because of querea birds that come in numbers. Whereas I know it's possible to put the fence as suggested by the honorable member, which I fully support. I think the government also needs to look at a lasting solution on some of the other conflicts, like the birds, which I've just mentioned, Honorable Speaker. In Mwea alone, we lose 250 million every season through the querea birds. This is something that the government should put focus on and sort it out once and for all. If it's a question of benchmarking outside this country to see how they control their birds, they better do so, Honorable Speaker, because I'm told some of these birds come from Ethiopia, and I think I need to be sent there so that we can negotiate with the government of Ethiopia how to contain them, because we are really suffering, Honorable Speaker. I support this particular petition. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Makueni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I raise to support the petition by the Honorable Jessica Mbelu, Member of Parliament for KBC East. Mr. Speaker, these animals are also crossed to Makueni constituency, and similar damage has been occasioned. In fact, on several occasions, people have been killed by elephants and even attacks by lions, Mr. Speaker, and I really support the idea of a fence being put there. But more important, Mr. Speaker, while the committee is considering this petition, the KWS and any other government department in charge of animals must now take this matter seriously, Mr. Speaker. We also have, when it comes to the compensation, there is a part the county government participates. And unfortunately, that has been very slow. So, Mr. Speaker, I really want to support the petition. And more important, we have to refine the manner in which the compensation are being handled. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Taita Taveta.
Asante Bwana Spika, hata mimi kunipatia fursa. Hata mimi nataka kuchukua fursa hii kumshukuru Mheshimiwa Jessica, na kwa kweli jambo hili la wanyamapori limekuwa kero. Sisi tukiwa pale Taita Taveta pia tuko majirani na mbuga ile ya wanyama ya Tsavo, na hata pia kule watu wetu vile vile wana changamoto hizo za kuuliwa na wanyama, mashamba kuharibiwa, mifugo kuliwa na wanyama, na ni wakati kweli jambo hili liweze kuchukuliwa na dharura na tupate suluhisho. Masuala haya tumeongelea sana hapa Mheshimiwa Spika, na ni wakati sasa tunataka kuona ya kwamba tumesaidika. Asante kwa kunipa hii fursa na namunga mkono.
Member for Wundanyi.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika, nami nataka kuunga mkono maombi yaliyoletwa na wakazi wa Makueni. Kweli Mheshimiwa Spika, mwenzangu wa Taita Taveta ameongea, mimi nitasema kwa uchache sana kwamba kilichobaki sasa Mheshimiwa Spika si mazungumzo tu. KWS tumeongea nao kwa muda mrefu, wizara tumeongea nayo kwa muda mrefu, lakini muda wote huo Mheshimiwa Spika hatujapata nafuu ama afueni katika masuala haya. Tumeona tu wanasuasua, wanakuwa ni watu ambao wanasema mambo ambayo hawatekelezi. Mheshimiwa Spika, kule kwangu ndani kuna sehemu inaitwa Kishushe. Wiki iliyopita shule 6 zilivamiwa na ndovu, matanki ambayo tumenunua na pesa za CDF yakabomolewa. Jana nilikuwa katika ofisi ya PS kumweleza kwamba ni vipi wanaweza angalau kufidia matangi yale, manake shule zimefunguliwa ndio, lakini wazazi hawajaruhusu watoto wao kwenda shuleni kwa uoga wa ndovu. Mheshimiwa Spika, ndovu za siku hizi ni kama kidogo nazo pia zimepiga hatua ya 21st century. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sababu gani? Kule kwangu zinakunywa maji kwa matanki kwa juu, alafu maji yakipungua mikono yao mkono hawezi fika kwa maji, zinabomoa alafu zinakunywa kwa katikati. Utakuta kwamba nina matanki karibu 6. Mheshimiwa Spika, Jumaa iliyopita nilikuwa kule. Sasa zimefika mahali nyumba 3 wanaenda kwa manyumba, zile nyumba ambazo mabati yamefanya kulazwa, alafu zinagonga juu, zinatoboa, zichungulie ndani ama ziingize mkono ziangalie kama kuna chakula ama chochote. Mheshimiwa Spika, tuna tatizo, na mimi naomba hivi, tunapoangazia masuala ya wanyamapori kuvamia mashamba na mifugo na maisha ya wananchi, tusiangalie sana tu ndovu, simba na kuna mwenzangu amesema kwamba kwake ni ndege. Sasa kuna tatizo lingine kusugu ambalo bunge hili nilileta swali ambalo lilijibiwa ndio na waziri, lakini halikujibiwa mwafaka. Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna tumbiri ambao sasa nao kule kwangu kule milimani ni tumbiri zinasumbua, huku chini ni ndovu. Sasa tunaomba tu bunge hili wizara ichukulie mambo haya kwa uzito. Na mwisho, kila mara wanasema hawana pesa ya kufidia. Mheshimiwa Spika, wakati SGR Mheshimiwa Spika ikijengwa, KWS ilifidiwa karibu bilioni 6. Pesa zile wao wakatumia kwa mambo yao badala wafidia wananchi. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, swala hili la msingi na ni nzito ambalo nchi hii yatakana iliangazia. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Lakini ulianza kwa kusema utazungumza kwa uchache mno. Lakini umezungumza zaidi. Mambo ya ndovu ambao wanakunywa maji, tumbiri pia, sasa hivi mambo mazito haya. Member for Endebess, na kwa uchache mno.
Asante Mheshimiwa Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, nataka kuunga ile petition imepeanwa na Mheshimiwa Mbalu kwa mambo ya wanyama bori. Bwana Spika, Bwana Spika, kule Endebess tuko na Mount Elgon Lodge na National Park, na hiyo Mount Elgon National Park unakuta kwamba wanyama bori wanakula mahindi na mimea zingine za wakaaji wa kule, na unapata kwamba pia kuna ile inaitwa ngiri pia inakula hizo mahindi, lakini kufidia inakuwa shida. Kwa hivyo ningependa kamati ya ile inahusika, Bwana Spika, wanapopitisha bajeti ya wizara ya wildlife ya wanyamapori, waangalie kwamba kuna item ya kuweza kufidia yale, kwa sababu hii bunge, Bwana Spika, 2016 mwaka 2016 ilipitisha sheria na katika hiyo sheria kuna fidia ya wewe kuumia kwa mambo ya ndovu ama ndovu kuumiza ama wanyamapori kuumiza chakula ya wananchi. Kwa hivyo ni mzuri waangalie katika hiyo bajeti kwamba wizara iko na budget pesa ambayo inaweza kufidia wakulima na wale wengine wanaumia. Nashukuru Bwana Spika, asante.
Member for Community.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this petition. This is not the first time, Mr. Speaker, we're having this petition on the floor of the House. And this is the highest time the relevant committee, Mr. Speaker, should take it seriously. Mr. Speaker, on matters of human-wildlife conflict, it is something that has been there with us. And it's not just only on the parts of cost, Mr. Speaker, as Honorable my friend the MP for Endebess has said, even on the size of Trans-Nzoia, Mr. Speaker, we have this KWS taking care, and you find the fence is destroyed. So one way of prevention, Mr. Speaker, at least is to ensure the fence is there before you go into other issues. Because even those people whose products have been destroyed, Mr. Speaker, compensation has been a problem. If they accept a liability, it takes forever. So we are calling upon the relevant committee, Mr. Speaker, to take this matter seriously so that a lasting solution can be found for once and for all, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Finally, member for Kajiado South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this petition from my good neighbor, the member for KBC East. Kajiado South, in particular, borders all the national parks that are mentioned in the petition, and there have been very good, coexistence between this side of Kajiado County and Makueni County. But we are separated by these national parks, Mr. Speaker, and I think what needs to be done, I really support the prayers in the petition, but we need also to understand that wildlife is a national resource, and we earn a lot as a country for our GDP through tourism. But, Mr. Speaker, on one side we have the, agriculturalists. On the other side we have the pastoralists. So these wildlife, they live in these, community land or private land, for that matter, because the land in the parks, they do not have the capacity to really carry out or to accommodate all the wild animals, Mr. Speaker. So what KWS should do, or government for that matter, Mr. Speaker, is to look for a way where we can all live in a symbiotic relationship, whereby we benefit from this wildlife and they also benefit from us, Mr. Speaker. Like, for instance, the issue of the schools. Government need to fence all the schools using even the solar system. They become electric to avoid such destruction of property, Mr. Speaker, as said by honorable members. As much as they do the fencing of the parks, they also need to leave pathways where those in the pastoral areas, Mr. Speaker, can access pasture and also watering points, Mr. Speaker. And also, Mr. Speaker, we have a very good coexistence between Kibwezi and Kajiado, for that matter, even to access the markets like Kambo, Mr. Speaker. And so they need not to fence everywhere so that people from both sides can access either side, Mr. Speaker. The people of Kibwezi, they come to Loitoktok. The people of Loitoktok, they go to Kambo for the market, Mr. Speaker. I think those need to be taken into consideration. And finally, Mr. Speaker, KWS, when they are recruiting the rangers, the Kenya Wildlife Rangers, Mr. Speaker, they need to pay particular attention to these communities that live with this wildlife, Mr. Speaker, both on the side of Makueni, on the side of Kajiado, and other parts of the country where they have wildlife, Mr. Speaker, and give them priority, recruit their sons and daughters to be able to manage these wildlife, Mr. Speaker, and the communities will see the benefits, and therefore they will agree to live with this wildlife, Mr. Speaker. Since it is a petition, I don't want to say much, Mr. Speaker. I support it.
Next order. The petition is referred to the Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources to deal with as appropriate under Article 227. Standing order, sorry.
Order number 5, papers.
Leader Majority.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Thursday, 13th of May, 2021, afternoon sitting. Legal notice number 55 regarding the public finance management, Biashara Kenya Fund regulations of 2021. Number 2, the reports of the Auditor General on financial statements in respect to the following institutions for the year ended 30th of June 2020 and the certificates therein. A, the National Land Commission, the Staff Car Loan Scheme Fund for the 18 months. B, the National Land Commission on Staff Housing Fund for the 18 months. State Law Office and Department of Justice. Number D, the National Council for Nomadic Education in Kenya, NACONEC. Number E, Tomboya University College. F, Kenya Space Agency. And third is the reports of the judiciary in respect of the following. A, the Court of Appeal Practice Direction Civil Appeals and Applications 2015. Number B, the Court of Appeal of Kenya 20 19 to 2020. C, the Court of Appeal Strategic Plan 2020 to 2024. Number D, the Court of Appeal Criminal Appeals and Applications Practice Directions 2020. And lastly, the Court of Appeal Registry Manual. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, is the report of the Central Bank of Kenya in respect of the following: the 22nd biannual report of the Monetary Policy Committee for April 2019. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Chairman, Select Committee on Delegated Legislation. Chairman, Delegate Committees on Delegated Legislation. As a member for TRT. Has he ever known what time Parliament starts in the afternoon? Because in the morning he was here. The other day he wasn't called. When he was called, he wasn't in. He later came loitering around, I don't know, at 4 p.m. The Vice Chair? Vice Chair. There are some reports. 2 reports. 3. No, let me give him.
Honourable Speaker, I would seek your indulgence for about 5 minutes. Then I will seek that I present the reports. Give me about 5 minutes, sir.
Very well. We'll then go to the next order. We'll come back to order number 5. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
The chairperson or chairman, Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources, the Honorable Kareke Mbiuki. Supposed to give notice of motion for adoption of a report, the session of paper number 1 of 2020 on the wildlife policy. When we've just received the petition on which a lot of useful comments from members. Honorable Kareke Mbiuki, the Vice Chair, who's Honorable Sophia Abdi, the member for Ijara. Both are absent, not desiring to be present. We move to the next. Again, the chairman or vice chairman, delegated legislation, is supposed to give notice of for the adoption of those 3 reports. We'll move to the next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
First segment, questions. The first question is by the member for Mumias East, the Honorable Benjamin Jomo Ashiali.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 42A-5, I rise to ask question number 131 of 2021 to the Cabinet Secretary for Petroleum and Mining. 1. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain the cause of the constant increase in the price of petroleum products in the country? Roman 2, could the Cabinet Secretary provide the justification for the said increase, given that the retail petroleum products in other neighboring countries, including the landlocked ones, are cheaper compared to the prices in Kenya? Roman 3, could the Cabinet Secretary provide details of the actions being put in place by the government, if any, to caution citizens from the continued price increases of petroleum products particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic period. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Question will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Energy. Next question by the member for Uriri. Magna Mita.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Standing Order 42, I rise to ask question number 137. It is directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Education. Question number 1, could the Cabinet Secretary explain why there have been perennial delays in the disbursement of free secondary education funds by the Ministry to the public learning institutions in the country? Could the Cabinet Secretary give the timelines when the said funds will be released, will be disbursed to the various institutions, and give a calendar by timely basis? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I think you have added something which is not on the question. The one of the counties is not on the question. But nevertheless, the question will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Education and Research. Next question is by the member for Kitui County, the Honorable Dr. Irene Kasalu. Member did write to request that the question be deferred indefinitely. The request was acceded to. Move to the next question by the member for Kwanza, the Honorable Ferdinand Kevin Wanyonyi. Member also did write to request that the question be deferred. Yes, the request is acceded to. The next question is by the member for Funyula, the Honorable Dr. Ojiambo Udo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand to ask question 168 of 2021, directed to the Judicial Service Commission. 1, could the Commission explain why the judiciary has been operating without a substantive Director of Finance for the past 7 years? 2, could the Commission explain why the process of recruitment for the said position, which began 7 years ago, is yet to be completed? 3, could the Commission also provide an update on the implementation status of all the Commission undertakings regarding the said recruitment, in view of the various concerns of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, the Budget and Appropriation Committee, and the Public Accounts Committee of the National Assembly regarding immediate filling of the said position? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The question will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs. The last question is by the member for Sirisia, the Honorable Major Retired John Waluke, who has requested that the question be asked on his behalf by the Honorable Kaunya, Oku Kaunya. The Honorable Oku Kaunya, put your intervention.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask question number 169, 2020, 1, which I'm asking on behalf of the member for Sirisha, Honorable Major Retired John Waluke, MP, to the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Education. Roman 1, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the measures being put in place to mitigate challenges faced by public universities in the country due to inadequate funding, which has led to, among other concerns, increased debts, failure to remit statutory dues from employees' deductions, and failure to meet other financial obligations? Roman number 2, could the Cabinet Secretary also explain the continued funding of students in private universities at the expense of existing public universities? Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
The question will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Education and Research. Now, for the second time, we go to order number 5 to allow the Vice Chair Committee on Delegated Legislation.
Very much, Honorable Speaker. In consultation with the leader of the majority and the clerks at the table, I seek indulgence that we lay the motions in the evening session.
The 7 o'clock sitting?
Yes.
Very well.
Thank you, Speaker.
Including the giving of the notice?
Much obliged.
Very well. Then we go to segment 2 of order number 7, being requests for statements. Start with the member for Malava, Honorable Ijendi Malulu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I arise to request for a statement regarding student requirements and selection for applicants to teachers training colleges for diploma courses in the country. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 44.2c, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Education and Research regarding requirements and selection of students for intakes to the teachers training colleges for diploma courses in the country. Honorable Speaker, it is of great concern that applicants who wish to join teachers training colleges for diploma courses in the country are facing a myriad of challenges in regard to mandatory requirements, and in particular, the minimum mean grade of C plane in KCSE. Further, a score of C plane in each of the following subjects, namely English, Kiswahili, mathematics, and any one subject in humanities and the sciences, is required during the selection and intakes. In addition, Mr. Speaker, the applicants are required to produce evidence of adherence to positive moral values and the police clearance, among others. Honorable Speaker, due to these stringent requirements, many Kenyans could not qualify for the intakes, notwithstanding the ministry having re-advertised for the pre-service teacher training college intakes for the year 2021, for the diploma in primary teacher education 2021, and diploma for the early childhood teacher education 2021. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Education and Research on the following. 1, could the relevant ministry explain whether there are any policies in place that guide and address matters regarding intakes of applicants to TTCs in the country for diploma courses, considering the huge demand by so many school leavers to join, and how it is operationalized? And if not, what measures are the ministry putting in place to ensure that policies are established to address fairness and equity during TTC intakes? Number 2, what action is the relevant ministry undertaking to address the disadvantaged applicants, considering that the average mean scores of many Kenyans across the country, having scored an average of KCSE mean score of C plane, but having one of the following subjects, namely English, Kiswahili, mathematics, and any one subject in humanities and sciences below the required score of C plane? Number 3, further, what action is the relevant ministry undertaking to address the disadvantaged applicants who scored below the average mean grade of C plane, but having one or even more of the following subjects, namely English, Kiswahili, mathematics, and any one subject in humanities and sciences above the required score of C plane? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The chairperson, Departmental Committee on Education and Research, the Honorable Florence Mutua. Vice Chair, yes, Honorable Ngujiri.
We undertake to get back to Mheshimiwa with a response in 2 weeks.
Very well. 2 weeks indeed. The next request is by the member for Ikolomani, Honorable Shinali.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, Speaker, I would like to thank you for allowing me to join my people during voting time. You gave me time and I joined my people in Ikolomani, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 44-2C, I seek to request for a statement from Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources regarding 5 miners who lost lives in Bishangala village, Ikolomani constituency. Honorable Speaker, since independence, several mining shafts that were used were left active for exploitation in Liranda corridor in the western region of the country. These mining shafts are mainly found in Lurambe, Shinyalu, Ikolomani, and Wisero constituencies. There are over 85,000 artisanal miners in the said region without access to technological capacity on mining matters, forcing them to use unrefined, risk, hazardous, and crude methods to extract gold. This exposes them to risks and hazards, leading to loss of lives and serious body injuries.
Please, Sergeant at Arms, the member here is not properly dressed. Show him the door. You cannot come here improperly dressed and you still want to seek audience with me.
Thank you, Speaker.
Proceed.
This exposes them to risk and hazards, leading to loss of lives and serious body injuries, as witnessed recently on Thursday, 6th May 2021, where 5 miners lost their lives and nine were seriously injured in Bushangala village, Ikolomani constituency. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources on the following. Number 1, Speaker, could the Chairperson state whether the government is aware of the high multitude of mining activities in the Liranda corridor, attracting over 85,000 people, and have been mines have been collapsing, resulting into death and permanent injuries of the miners, such as the most recent incident in Bushangala village of Ikolomani constituency, where 5 people died and 9 are nursing permanent injuries in hospitals. Number 2, could Chairperson state the measures the government has put in place to ensure that artisanal miners are equipped with safety kits and necessary skills in mining, such as identification of mining risks and conducting of safety checks to aid their safety? Number 3, could the Chairperson state whether the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining has collected data on artisanal mining activities in the Randa corridor? Number 4, as a remedy to unemployment in Kenya, could the Chairperson state the measures the government has put in place to ensure access to financing by artisanal miners to aid purchase of safety equipment such as helmets, dust masks, and first aid kits? Lastly, Mr. Speaker, number 5, could the Chairperson explain whether the government has deployed inspectors of mines to enforce safety standards such as reduction of misuse of chemicals like mercury and its far-reaching health impacts in the smelting gold. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Just a minute. Is it about that statement? A stranger. Very well, Honorable Mbadi. Who is a stranger?
Mr. Speaker, I've tried to figure out who one member of parliament is because I know all our Muslim brothers. But as a member of parliament, there's someone, I don't know whether it's a member of parliament, who is dressed, it's called who? No, honestly, Mr. Speaker, we need to confirm who this member of parliament is, who is dressed in Muslim, and I don't think he's one of our Muslim brothers. The member of parliament sitting behind Honorable Chachu Ganya. This is Njomo. No, I give up, Mr. Speaker.
No, what? But very well. Who is the gentleman in? Can you rise in your place and explain who you are?
May I have the mic? Mr. Speaker, I'm Jude Jomo, the servant of the people of Kiambu.
Walk out to go and dress properly. Just walk out. Sergeant at arms, show him the door, go out and dress properly. It doesn't matter whose servant you are. The statement shot by the Honorable Shinali, the Chair of Environment and Natural Resources, again, as earlier on noted, is absent. The request will be channeled through, it will be delivered to that committee through the Office of the Leader Majority. Next request is by the member for Igembe South, Honorable John Paul Mwirigi.
Thank you. Request for statement regarding cautioning of affected of Miraa farmers. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to standing order number 44-2C, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Department Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives regarding cautioning of Miraa farmers following the closure of Miraa market in Somalia. Honorable Speaker, for close to 2 years, Miraa farmers have faced a number of challenges, amongst them closure of market and COVID-19 leading to loss of livelihood. In addition, on Sunday, 9th May 2021, Miraa worth 5 million shillings was turned back at JKIA due to a statement issued by the federal government of Somalia that no cargo plane from Kenya should access their airspace, and therefore farmers' products would not access market, especially Miraa. Further, on Tuesday morning, 11th May 2021, the government of Kenya suspended all flights to and from Somalia. It is important to note that there were invoiced Miraa that was destined for Somalia on Sunday was held up. Honorable Speaker, it is on this background that I seek a statement from Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives on the following. 1. Could the chairperson explain why farmers could not be informed earlier enough on closure of the airspace by the federal government of Somalia? Are there any plan, number 2, are there any plan to compensate the farmers for the loss incurred, noting that students are going back to school and this has been their parents' main source of income and general livelihood? Number 3, could the chairperson explain what measures are in place to open more market access by Mira farmers in the region, particularly the Horn of Africa? Number 4, could the government explain what led to the suspension of flight, especially cargo flight, that Mira farmers rely on, and when are the flights expected to resume? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
But part 1 of your question, either part 1 or part 2, you're asking, could the farmers not be informed, why could they be not informed in advance about the closure by Somalia? So who was to inform them?
Mr. Speaker, I understand any instruction issued by other government, our government is aware. So that's why I'm requesting, why was the farmers not informed early enough?
But when it is announced, see, that announcement is the one that is deemed to be given to everybody,
Mr. Speaker,
including the Mira farmers.
Mr. Speaker, on Friday, the government of Somalia announced that they have received diplomatic relations with Kenya, meaning that all business was to resume as usual. So the farmers on Saturday harvested their crop. But on Sunday, when they transported their crop to market, that is when they made that communication.
Sorry to the farmers. Where is the chair of trade? Honorable Adan Haj. The vice chair. Who is the vice chair? Agriculture Committee. Oh, trade, sorry. No, the vice chair. Now, channel your request through the office of the leader of the majority party for conference. The next request is by the member for Marakwet East, Honorable Bowen Kagogo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 44-2C, I seek to request a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee of Transport, Public Works, and Housing regarding the traffic control in the Nairobi city. Honorable Speaker, we appreciate the construction of the overpass from Mlolongo to Westlands. However, Mr. Speaker, since the work started, Mr. Speaker, the Chinese construction company has ignored the road users of Mombasa Road, Mr. Speaker, causing a serious inconvenience to the road users, Mr. Speaker. The traffic congestion, Mr. Speaker, along Mombasa Road starts as early as 5 a.m. in the morning, and it goes all throughout the day to the evening, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this has caused a lot of adverse effects, such as people missing their official reporting time to their offices. Some of the employees, Mr. Speaker, they have been dismissed from their works because of reporting late. Mr. Speaker, air passengers also, they have missed their flights. People have missed their business meetings. And Mr. Speaker, even it has caused some deaths because the ambulances which are carrying sick people along Mombasa Road, Mr. Speaker, they are not able to maneuver the heavy traffic to deliver patients to hospital on time. And in addition, Mr. Speaker, all the cost which is associated with the traffic jam. Honorable Speaker, It's against this background that I seek a statement from the chair of the Departmental Committee of Transport, Public Works and Housing on the following one. Mr. Speaker, the measures put in place to ensure smooth flow of traffic in the city despite the ongoing construction, and what is the role of the Traffic Police Department in regard to the traffic flow. Number two, Mr. Speaker, when will the contractors provide a safe and alternative access route in order to reduce the traffic, Mr. Speaker, within the said route of Mombasa Road? And number three, Mr. Speaker, what are the plans in place by the contractor to ensure the diversion sections of the road under constructions are repaired to ease flow of traffic? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Is the chair of Department of Committee on Transport in the House to deal with the issue of the traffic jam? Yeah, that's what I had the member to have said. The Honorable Kosing. He also understands that one. And the Vice Chair, they are also caught up with the charm. So you can see, Honorable Kangogo, I think you have introduced something very, very chaotic. It's charming everything. Yeah? The request will be forwarded through the office of the Leader of Majority. There's a request by the member for Marsabit East. Is it East? No, not Marsabit East. Wajir. The Honorable Amin. Wajir East, yes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My request for a statement pursuant to Standing Order 44-2C on Israel's and Palestinian conflicts. Honorable Speaker, yes. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 42C, I wish to request for a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations regarding the conflict between Israel and Palestinians. Honorable Speaker, on June 2020, Kenya was elected as a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. The Security Council has a primary responsibility under the United Nations Charter for the maintenance of international peace and security, and also to determine when and where UN peace operations will be deployed. Therefore, Kenya has an obligation to broker peace in the conflict-stricken region. Honorable Speaker, deeply concerned of the ongoing Israel-Palestine conflicts, that Israel faces a wide range of social, economic, and security challenges, some of which stem from the decades-long conflict between Israelis and the Palestinians, noting that the city of Jerusalem is the home of all religions and the ongoing conflict deters peaceful coexistence of all communities. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the chairpersons of the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations on the following. Measures taken by the government to broker peace in the conflict-stricken region. 1. 2, request the government to condemn the killing of over 20 persons in the Holy Mosque of Al-Aqsa. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, for Rashid Amin, MP Wajir East constituency. Thank you.
The Chair defends Honorable Kato.
Mr. Speaker, since you approved that statement, we have no option other than to try to direct it to the relevant authorities and bring the report. But we all know that this evening the House is adjourning in accordance with the House calendar. So once it resumes, give us 2 weeks and we see whether we can get satisfactory reply. Yeah.
The next request additionally is by the member for Laisamis, Honorable Massimo Alberi. This one.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 84, I wish to make a personal statement regarding a threat to my personal life. Honorable Speaker, during my normal constituency tour on 21st of April 2021, I got information regarding a murder of 2 innocent young men from the Rendile ethnic community who were mercilessly murdered in cold blood at a place called Midrock in a Badassa area around Songa in Marsabit County by unknown assailants. I led my constituents in condemning the killings and appealed to the security apparatus to swiftly apprehend the culprits. However, Mr. Speaker, on April 24, 2021, at around 1600 hours, I noticed that my vehicle and my whereabouts was being trailed by 2 police Land Cruisers of registration number GKB 554J and GKB 283T, all carrying armed police officers dressed in civilian clothes. The vehicles were stationed presumably at 2 residences belonging to Mr. Harabore and Mr. Gargule, which I frequently visit, while the third vehicle, a white pickup of registration number KCG 531M, was patrolling the area. Honorable Speaker, consequently, the 4th Land Cruiser, loaded with cannabis sativa, was parked at the home of one deceased Rendile elder by the name Arigele, and was later driven back to Marsabit by the same people under unexplained circumstances. Surprisingly, Mr. Speaker, the police officers claimed to be looking for a vehicle believed to be carrying cannabis sativa and is reported to have found its way to Hula Hula village, where I was present. I therefore believe that the whole incident cannot be classified as an isolated remote occurrence, but a well-planned move aimed at socially and politically tarnishing my reputation as a leader by merely associating me with this outlawed illicit business of hard drug trafficking, whose repercussion is hefty and unbearable as per the law, including a move to eliminate me through assassination by some powerful individuals within the county for political gains. Mr. Speaker, it is against this background that I appeal to the Parliamentary Service Commission, Inspector General of Police, and the Independent Police Oversight Authority to guarantee my protection and further implore the local security and intelligence agencies to quickly investigate and apprehend every concerned police officers involved in this ordeal. I thank you, Mr. Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Well, that was a personal statement, understanding under 84. The next segment is responses. Responses to statements, to requests. First, by the chair of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security. You have a number of responses. Honorable Mwadi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I have 3 responses, and I'll start with the earlier one that came or was requested on 18th February 2021. by the Honorable Member for Molo constituency, the Honorable Kimani Kuria, who requested to be informed on the total ban on planting of maize in parts of the Nesut, Sigotik, and the larger Mariashoni wards. He particularly sought to be informed on, number one, whether the ban is a government directive through Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government, and what necessitated it. Two, whether the ban is a sustainable approach to providing security in the pretext that criminals would not hide in the maize plantations. Three, the action being taken to lift the ban and implement sustainable ways of dealing with intra-ethnic clashes occasioned by long-standing land disputes. Honorable Speaker, the reply is as follows.
Just before you proceed to the reply, the Honorable Kimani Kuria, member for Molo, is in the House. The member is not in the House. Just table the response. Then proceed to the next one.
I'm well guided, Honorable Speaker. The second one is a request that was placed on the 15th February 2021 by the member for Wajir constituency, Honorable Rashid Amin, who requested for a statement on increased incidences of detention of residents of Wajir East constituency. The honorable member particularly sought to be informed on A, why 8 individuals have been detained for the last 6 months with no charges being preferred against them. B, the steps that the government is taking to ensure that innocent detainees are released by the security agencies. And C, the specific action being taken against security personnel involved in indefinite detention of innocent citizens. So if the member is present, Honorable Speaker, I can proceed.
Yeah, the member is.
Thank you.
Is the one asking about Jerusalem.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Then the reply is as follows. Honorable Speaker, the government is not aware of the detention of 8 individuals by security agencies in Wajir for 6 months without being arraigned before court. All persons arrested are always taken before courts of law for formal trial whenever it is found that there exists adequate evidence to charge them. Similarly, the government is not aware of any security personnel holding any member of public unlawfully. Further, records held by police and other government agencies have no reports of any complaints for people detained for more than 24 hours. I thank you, Honorable Speaker. That's the reply.
Honorable Amin.
Honorable Speaker, I'm indeed perturbed by the remarks and the statement given by the newly appointed chair of the Security Committee. Honorable, he is appointed anyway. He is appointed. Let me say, he is elected, sir. Because he was transferred from Labour to this. Anyway, I'm really indeed disappointed by the remarks. Honorable Speaker, I gave a statement and I requested for a petition on this regard for the last 4 months.
You requested for a petition?
For a petition on this matter.
Petition?
No, statement on this matter. Honorable Speaker, I remember vividly, and I said it on this floor of the House, the demise of our brother, Honorable Koinange, who vehemently followed on this matter routinely, was giving me a brief on the number of intercussions and in terms of movement he has done, in terms of his engagement with the security personnel and the office of the President on the regard of the arbitrary arrest on this matter. Honorable Speaker, this issue is an abuse and an affront to human rights. Honorable Speaker, I know it very well that he has keenly followed it, and one person out of the 8 was released in Garissa out of his follow-up on this matter, and the government has acknowledged the same. Therefore, the information that our chairman is giving us is contrary to information that I have and the rest of the general public have on this matter, Honorable Speaker. And I will request further, Honorable Speaker, through your interventions, that these people are still being held in government institutions, particularly under special arrangements which has been done by security forces, multi-sectoral agencies who are arresting them, detaining them in military camps, in government facilities for a period extensively not allowed by the Constitution of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, I know it very well. Some of them have been held.
Honorable Amin.
Honorable Speaker, I want your intervention.
Just a minute so that you don't, Honorable Amin, because of what you are saying, even if we turn the chairman to respond, I'm sure he will not be in a position to. And so that, because what you are saying is it's a matter that affects, is a breach of human rights. Yeah? It's an affront to the Constitution. If anybody is being detained against their free will for periods in excess of what is allowed by the Constitution and the law, the best situation would be for the chairman to undertake to invite the cabinet secretary or whomever is responsible for that docket to appear before the committee and invite you to go and make those statements which you are making to the people. So because those are the people who are likely to now, you are going to engage them because you are saying they are detained in certain government institutions. Maybe you will be able to tell them, so-and-so is detained in this place. The other one is detained in this one. You have said another one was released in Garissa. Now, those people responsible would be in a position to engage you because it's a serious matter. So there's no point of you, because I can see the amount of anger in you. It's, and you have a right. You have a right to feel angry. But the chairman has just read a statement which came from the ministry. This is the inadequacy of this system. You can ask the people who have experience of the former system, even though many of you perhaps now may not differentiate about the advantages of that other system. Because were he the minister, what you are saying, you would have no option. And the speaker would now be in a position to order him to walk out with you and go and produce those people. But now, even if the chairman has just merely read a statement which has been given to him. Oh no, I mean, unless you just want to for bonga points. No, just 1 minute. Yes.
Honorable Speaker, I thank you for your wisdom and your intervention on this matter and acknowledging the seriousness under which these circumstances has bedeviled us for quite a long time. Thank you very much for your intervention, and the decision and the direction you have given is convincing in half. Thank you very much. I'm truly grateful. Thank you.
Good. Honorable Mwadi, what's the chairman?
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the guidance, and I think that's the best way to go. And I was going to really sympathize with the situation because it looks, the way you're explaining the situation looks quite dire. But again, the direction of having to invite the Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Speaker, to shed more light, and including yourself, Honorable Member, that you will come with the names, because I'm only reading about individuals. And then now one of the individuals has been released. We don't know who it is. So I think you also come with details so that we're able to engage the CS to the details that will satisfy you.
Very well. The next response, Honorable Mwadi.
Honorable Speaker, this is the third statement which was sought for on 11th March 2021 by the Honorable Member of Parliament for Samburu North constituency, the Honorable Alois Lentoimaga, who requested for a statement regarding the killing of Mr. Moses Murson Lekairab, a Chief Inspector and Deputy Commander, Rapid Deployment Unit Kapendo, and his driver, PC Benson Kaburu, at the Amaya Bridge in Samburu County.
Is the Honorable Alois Lentoimaga, member for Samburu North, in the House? Just table the report.
Yeah, he had actually requested for this to be deferred today so that he can be present. So I think probably still caught up. But I'm well guided that I'll be tabling.
Yeah, just table it, he can raise the issues.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yeah. Leader Majority.
Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 44, subsection 2, subsection A, I rise to give the following statement on behalf of the House Business Committee, which met on Tuesday, the 11th of May, 2021, to prioritize business for consideration. Honorable Speaker, members will recall that on Tuesday, 4th of May, the House adopted a resolution to amend the 2021 calendar, which had the effect of shortening the May recess by 1 week, owing to the urgent business we were considering. And as such, the House is now scheduled to proceed for its recess this evening from tomorrow, Friday, May the 14th, 2021, and resume its regular sittings on Tuesday, the 8th of June, 2021. Honorable members may also wish to note that the vetting for the nominee for the key position of the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, the Honorable Lady Justice Martha Koome, is in progress. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, I'm told the committee is in the process of writing the report, having vetted this morning, and there are certain statutory timelines associated with the conclusion of that process. Therefore, the House may be recalled in accordance with the provisions of Standing Order number 29 for a special sitting at the appropriate time to consider the report of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs on the vetting of the nominee for appointment as Chief Justice and any other urgent business that may arise during this recess period. Mr. Speaker, there are currently no questions that are scheduled for response by Cabinet Secretaries in the coming week. Therefore, the departmental committees will mainly focus on consideration of the budget estimates for the financial year 2021-2022. Honorable Speaker, the House Business Committee will convene on Monday, the 7th of June, 2021, to schedule business for the week of resumption of the House. I now wish to lay this statement on the table of the House. Thank you.
Proceed to the next. Before we move to the next one. Honour members, you will recall that on Tuesday, 11th of May 2021, during the afternoon sitting, the member for Kitui Central, the Honourable Dr. Makali Mulu, rose on a point of order pursuant to Standing Order 108, inviting me to name the member for Gatundu South. In making the invitation, the Honourable Dr. Makali Mulu claimed that the member for Gatundu South had made false and disparaging remarks about the ethical conduct of members of the House in relation to the proceedings of Thursday, 6th of May 2021, during the voting on the second and third reading of the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020. Other members speaking in support invited the Speaker to also name the member for Kiharu and the member for Nyali for grossly disorderly conduct by using unparliamentary language and bringing the dignity of the House to disrepute. Honourable members, having considered the matter and observing the weighty nature of the issues raised, I deferred the decision whether or not to name the members or not, and instead directed that they attend the afternoon sitting of today, Thursday, 13th May 2021 at 2:30 p.m. in order to afford them an opportunity to respond to the issues raised by you, honourable members. I am informed that the clerk forwarded the handwritten records of the sitting day for their reference. Therefore, I wish to know whether the three members are present, but even as I do so, I wish to announce to the House that the member for Nyali, Honorable Mohammed Ali, did write to me a letter which I received this morning indicating that he would be unavailable at this afternoon sitting on the grounds that today is Eid and that he would be celebrating the same with his family and may not therefore be available in the chamber, and requesting for time to appear any other time that the House will be sitting. So I therefore, having noticed that that is a matter of, Eid is a religious observation. Therefore, I just need to find out whether the member for Gatundu South is in the House and the member for Kiharu. Yeah, that's the member for Kiharu, the member for Gatundu South. Now, honourable members, I have already indicated the reasons why it was desirable that they be present. And therefore, perhaps without having to require anybody to state the matter afresh, because that would amount to contributing twice, I would request that give a chance to the member for Gatundu South to make his statement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Speaker, indeed, I got a copy of the request that I availed myself, and I also got a copy of the Hansard. I want to thank you for this opportunity in the interest of natural justice for me to have my say on this matter. I do not intend, Mr. Speaker, to tire you with a lengthy discussion on this issue, so I'll be very straight to the point. But first, I'll have two preliminary observations, Mr. Speaker. One, touching on from what I got from the broadcast, is your own remarks when you asked that I explain myself. Mr. Speaker, with all due respect, and I have a lot of respect for you, as a leader of this House, as a leader of this nation, and as someone I've known for a long time, I have nothing but the utmost respect for you. But Mr. Speaker, I do find the remarks you made about me to be condescending and disparaging and were hurtful. Mr. Speaker, protect me from livestock.
Honorable Kulia, there's no livestock in the chamber.
No, well, I hear about cows. So, Mr. Speaker, I thought that the purpose of this opportunity is to give me an opportunity to explain myself.
Proceed.
Yes. And Mr. Speaker, you really did actually even invite the people of Gatundu South to invoke Article 103 of the Constitution, which I find to be not in good taste, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I thought that the people of Gatundu South do get an opportunity to vote me in or out every 5 years. They may vote me in, they may vote out. You have this experience, Mr. Speaker, you having been voted out twice. So people do get an opportunity to use the power that they have. And so therefore, Mr. Speaker, I do want to, even as I make my statement, to express my reservation about what I consider to be condescending and disparaging remarks about me from yourself, which I do think, although I want to believe that they were not made in bad faith. Second observation, Mr. Speaker, is that in your own direction on that particular day, you noted that the Honorable Caleb Kositani, on an issue that was raised by the Honorable Christianas Wamalo, made remarks on media out there, on television. But you actually proceeded to ask that I make a statement for remarks made in another media. The social media and the traditional mass media are one and the same. So, Mr. Speaker, I do find your direction to be inconsistent and to be selective. And again, I want to believe that that error of judgment was not made in bad faith. Mr. Speaker, now as I proceed, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, you know, the honourable member for Gatundu South is at liberty to say what he is saying. Remember, he is referring to what I said. So don't get, you know, this is a simple, he says very simple things. Is it referring to members as cows? Honourable Gladys Wanga, what is your point of order?
Honorable Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. Is the member of Gatundu South in order to continue to come from insulting these members to come to insulting you, Mr. Speaker, on the chair, because he has referred to you having made a ruling in this House as error in judgment? Mr. Speaker, is he in order to be not only condescending to the total membership of this House, but also to return to be condescending to yourself, Honorable Speaker, and to term rulings that you made on the floor of this House as errors in judgment? Honorable Speaker, I call on you to find the member completely out of order, Mr. Speaker, and the member should go straight to the point that was raised on the floor of this House, which is that he claimed that members of this House received 100,000 shillings each for voting yes. Mr. Speaker, we do not want to listen to his condescending things. We want to listen to what he says to the matter. So I call on him to be relevant to the point. Honorable Speaker, I beg you to find the member completely out of order.
No, honourable members, that now is a point of order. No, yes, now what is the issue? Honourable Mwadhi, what's the
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I want to state from the onset that I'm usually very patient. But my patience has went off when I heard the Honorable Member referring to members as cows, unless he was talking about anything else. Because he's asking that you protect him from cows. So, Honorable Speaker, we need to know who are cows. Are they cows out there, or is this referring to us as cows? Is he in order?
So on those two, Honorable Kuria, first of all, did you refer to the members as cows? Yeah, at least give him. Can you confirm that you refer to members as cows and or livestock?
Mr. Speaker, it is on record in this House that some people have referred to themselves as cows.
Honorable Moses Kuria,
I'm only granting back their request.
Honorable Moses Kuria, did you or did you not?
Mr. Speaker, no, I did not.
Moses Kuria. Moses Kuria, can we get the answer?
Mr. Speaker, members in this House have referred to themselves as cows.
Honorable Moses Kuria, I have not asked you that question. Have you referred to members here as cows and or livestock?
Mr. Speaker, I withdraw and apologize.
What are you withdrawing? What are you withdrawing?
Yes, I did refer to the self-declared members as livestock, but I apologize and withdraw, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed. Now, Honorable Kuria, you are only to respond to the issues that as I've read out, that which was raised by the Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu, that you alleged in some medium that members had been paid the sum of Kenya shillings 100,000.
Mr. Speaker, I will proceed to respond to that particular claim and state that, one, whereas I believe that this House cannot be dragged into things that happen in social media, all the same, in deference to this House and to the seat that you occupy, Mr. Speaker, I do want to state that it is a fact that on numerous occasions, members, including myself, and I think it's a weighty matter, Mr. Speaker. It's a weighty matter that I'm speaking that requires that I be heard in silence. Because if there's any threat to the decorum of this House, it is by these members themselves. If there is any threat to the dignity of this House, to how we will be remembered in history, is the conduct of how we as honorable members conduct ourselves. As people who are supposed to be the conscience of the nation, and me knowing very well, I want to give one example. When we had a parliamentary group for the Jubilee Party,
Honorable Moses Kuria, I have no business, as you know, I don't preside over any political party meetings.
So, Mr. Speaker,
about what you do in Jubilee or any other Jubilee something,
Mr. Speaker,
I'm not interested. It is about what happened in the chamber. Honorable Moses Kuria, forget about those other stories.
I go by your own comments. The subject you are discussing here did not happen in this chamber. So I beg to stop there, Mr. Speaker.
So you did not make the allegation?
I did not make the allegations in this chamber, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Moses Kuria is entitled to make that kind of statement. Honorable Dede Nyoro.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to respond to the allegations that were made in the last sitting. And Mr. Speaker, I seek your indulgence that I relax my mask because I need to talk freely. And Mr. Speaker, as I rise, Mr. Speaker, please stop making noise, members. Give me time to respond because I also gave you time to accuse me.
No, Honorable Dede Nyoro, who did you are not, who could you, you have no authority or capacity to give anybody time.
All right. Mr. Speaker, I received your summons, and you know very much that I respect you in terms of the person, your person, and I also respect the chair and the speaker of this House. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I actually suspended a lot of constituency business to come and respond and to show respect to your summons, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, from the onset, I want this House and even the chair to know that I take this House very seriously. I take Mr. Speaker very seriously, and I'm sure I am on record, even saying on this on the floor of this House that among the people I look up to, one of them is none other than J.B. Muturi. in terms of experience, in terms of years, and therefore, Mr. Speaker, anything that I could say, and especially referring to the chair, Mr. Speaker, I will not be referring to you as a person. Mr. Speaker, I could term myself as a youthful member of parliament. And Mr. Speaker, like many other young people out there, many of us look for opportunities and actually aspire to come to this August House. And the expectations out there for this House, Mr. Speaker, are enormous. And when I was a bit younger, and I could watch the debates from other prominent members of parliament who have been in this House before, Mr. Speaker, I could see dignified people conducting themselves in a very dignified manner. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I would want to give my response in a forthright manner without holding anything back. Mr. Speaker, for a country to start, and for a nation, and especially a modern nation to start, I believe that there are three prerequisites. Number one is to have a strong state. Mr. Speaker, number two is to have the rule of law. And number three, to have accountability.
Now, Honorable Didi Nyoro.
Yes.
Please. You know, if we were in the usual meetings out there, we can have all the time to listen to this diatribe. But if it's possible, just for members claim that you used, you refer to them as con men, I don't know, things like those. Those are the only things, Honorable Didi Nyoro. If you didn't say it, just like the Honorable Kuri has just said, if you didn't, you didn't. And you can state so that we...
Mr. Speaker, I believe this is a very weighty matter. And as I have said...
Now you respond. Did you utter those stated once? Or did you not?
Mr. Speaker, I don't think, because I've gone through the standing orders, and I don't think anyone has got powers to dictate to me how to respond to these summons.
Honorable Didi Nyoro, you will either respond or not. You are not coming here to lecture people on the attributes of democracy, rule of law, and others. You are expecting to everybody here is expecting to know that. So just
Mr. Speaker, forgive me.
If you did not make those allegations, Didi Nyoro, I mean, you just say so.
Mr. Speaker, forgive me, because this is my way of responding, and I will be very brief indeed. But it is important for me to give a brief background, Mr. Speaker.
Did you or did you not?
Do what?
Utter those allegations, alleged ones.
I am saying I am in the process of answering you. Mr. Speaker, if there was a no or a yes answer, then a response would have been written for me to come and read. So I should be given time to respect in the best way.
Honorable Didi Nyoro, I will order that you resume your seats. I will not allow you to come here and tell people stories which have no bearing. It is irrelevant, tediously so. Yeah? It is irrelevant. You either Honorable Didi Nyoro, you either said utter those ones or you did not. If you said yes or no and then continue to give the background, people would understand. But now you are giving us stories about what may have been written by Edmund book. Yeah? So Honorable Didi Nyoro, this is an opportunity for you to, you just tell us what happened.
Mr. Speaker, I have gone through the summons and the answer, and the member purported that I actually referred to some people as cowards and traitors and sellouts. And Mr. Speaker, I actually referred to some people in those words. And therefore, I actually did. But Mr. Speaker, I want to give some background.
Some people?
Yes.
Who are those? So not these members?
Some could be.
Now, Honorable Didi Nyoro, don't be clever by an inch. Which ones are those?
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure I'll be through by now, other than these interjections.
No, you can see, Honorable Nyoro, the number of requests, interventions which are here.
Mr. Speaker, I honored your summons, and I came to give my response. Why can't these members give me time to respond to their queries?
Honorable Ngonjiri Wambugu, what's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to raise an issue that was initially raised by Honorable Wanga about the need to respond specifically to the issues that were raised. Mr. Speaker, the issues that were raised was that Honorable Dende called certain people sellouts, conmen, traitors. He has admitted that he actually called certain people that. He now needs to go on record and tell us who he was referring to, so that we deal with it, because now what he's been doing is lecturing us on issues that have no consequence to this particular affair. So I was under that it is in order for him to continue lecturing us as elected members of parliament on something that he has been called, he has been challenged, Mr. Speaker. He's not coming here based on something good that he did. He's coming here based on something that he's alleged to have done that is wrong. But he's talking to us as if he's on a point of, I don't know. Mr. Speaker, please just give direction. Thank you.
No, members, because the member that was a point of order, and I think the Honorable Didi Nyoro was in the process of explaining. But I think more importantly now, Honorable Didi, since you have admitted in your own words that you did refer to some members as traitors, conmen, and sellouts, perhaps you could go ahead now and tell us who those were, because you are now required to substantiate. Honorable Nyoro.
Mr. Speaker, when we came here last Thursday, we were voting on the BBI bill. And Mr. Speaker, there are many parameters on which members considered when they were voting. Number one, there are those like us, and many even who voted for yes or no, who voted through their conscience. Mr. Speaker, there are others that I have evidence who voted through their stomachs. Mr. Speaker, others voted on the basis of intimidation. And others, Mr. Speaker, voted by the direction of...
Honorable Nyoro, now you are making things even worse. I thought people were just using their mouths. These are not reptiles. How could they vote using their stomachs? I mean, surely, Honorable Didi, these are not reptiles. How would they vote using their stomachs? Honorable Didi, just substantiate who... Just
Mr.
explain that bit so that
Mr. Speaker,
we can be through with this.
Mr. Speaker, the people I referred to as cowards and traitors and sellouts are the people who departed from their conscience that day and voted through their stomach, and also those who voted by the direction of their party leaders, Mr. Speaker, and also the others who actually brought fear and voted on the basis of intimidation. Mr. Speaker, as I was saying before I was rudely interrupted, our country rests on three premises. Number one is a strong state.
There's a point of order from the member for Ruaraka.
You know, Mr. Speaker, when we came to this house to represent our people,
And when we joined this National Assembly to lead this country, our estimation and our reputation is at stake. This member has been asked very specific questions. And we are here, you should know that we are here as jurors, because these proceedings are stand a little, because it is a peerage proceedings in which one of us is misbehaving or is accused of unethical conduct. For him to take the stage to address people of Murang'a, and we give him the airtime, is even exacerbating this issue and putting our reputation at risk. I don't think we should give this member what he is looking for. He wants bonga points, or what is called bonga points, by addressing people of Murang'a. Now, to continue and say that some of us voted by our stomachs is even worse. He said that we are cowards. He said that we are all those things. But now he is saying exactly what Honorable Kuria was accused of saying. He is saying that some people are voting by what we ate, as though what we ate can turn into votes. So he should tell us how he has looked at my intestines and seen what exactly I ate. And Mr. Speaker, to tell us that some people are voting because of party leaders, right? You see, a contemner, Mr. Speaker, respectfully, a contemner, and you know that you have made these decisions before in your life, you know the position of a contemner. For a contemner to come before us and start even making it worse, abusing everybody, including the speaker who must have partaken of that eating of the stomach. So, Mr. Speaker, these are very serious things. That this, and Mr. Speaker, he is even calling himself youthful when I know that he is beyond 35 years of age. Yeah. So, Mr. Speaker, we have not come here. We have not come here for lectures, and we have not come here for people to abuse us. If he thinks he wants to abuse us, some of us has more English than him to abuse him. He cannot think that he has the command of language, or that Murang'a is any better than Ruaraka. After all, he will pass through Ruaraka as he goes to Murang'a every day. So we cannot accept that. Member for Garissa town must give me time to say what I must say. This is not a small matter to turn into things to do with politics out there. Some of us don't care. So what we care here is our reputation. Our reputation, people think that we are here eating things. Can you show us what are these things we are eating every day that they should... Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, honourable members, you know, I wanted us to deal with this issue about this, whatever is in your stomachs. I think, you know, this thing, Honourable Ndende Nyoro, I imagine that actually you've eaten today, or you will eat, unless you're on hunger strike. So please, let's not go that route of food, unless you are using it figuratively. Honorable Nyoro,
Mr. Speaker, I don't know why some members have gone on the defensive, because I'm yet to name names, and I'm going there. I'll be naming names, so relax, be patient. We are going to know the traitors, separate them from the sycophants and from the sellouts. So please be patient. If the shoe fits, wear it. If it doesn't fit, don't wear it. Please give me time.
Yes.
Please give me time.
Honorable Duale, what is your point of order? Hold on, there's a point of order.
The Speaker, I want you to guide the House. The Speaker, we are turning the plenary into what the Committee on Powers and Privilege should hear
under your chairmanship. Speaker, the whole country is watching us, and we cannot conduct that business of a committee of this House which you chair, powers and privilege. Because Honorable Nyoro, the route is taking, saying he's going to name names. So we are moving from one marquee issue to another. Because Mr. Speaker, I have been here. I've been here, and I'm sure Honorable Bandi and Honorable Kimunya will agree with me. In the 10th Parliament, the great lady and then the Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Honorable Mara Karua, I can't remember, I'll go back to the Hansard. That time we were in the chamber of the Senate. She said, this house has been turned into the biggest auction house. Speaker, a number of times members have even called others rent seekers. But you remember, those times the matters were referred to the powers and privilege. And some members ended up being invited by EACC. We have just finished in last Parliament dealing with the matter of the mercury and the sugar. And your committee gave recommendation. Mr. Speaker, I think when a member is named, their route is not this route. The route is different. That the member is given an opportunity to appear before the Powers and Privilege Committee. And Mr. Speaker, it's very sad. In the 11th Parliament, we wanted to amend the standing orders and introduce, like the House of Commons, the Standards and Ethics Officer within Parliament. You remember, yes? And we must do it. We must have Standards and Ethics Officer. I remember, Mr. Speaker, you brought it. And we brought it to amend the standing orders. And on that day, if the Hansard will correct me right, I said, you better have your own internal officer. Today, if we had a standard and ethics officer, by now the Speaker could have heard the truth or the lies behind this matter. But Mr. Speaker, I think the earlier the better you give direction to this debate. Because I agree with you, we vote through the electronic. I don't vote, I've never seen people voting through stomach. Because, two, I think Honorable Ndindi has serious privileged information. And if he has that information, he can give it. Because the moment, for example, he mentions the member for Garissa in this plenary, for example, or the member for Limuru, or the member for Suba, it becomes another sensational matter. It affects integrity of members, it affects their families, it affects their constituencies. So, Mr. Speaker, the way the route we are going, and let me say it as a ranking member, Mr. Speaker, I really want to ask you and indulge you that this matter is referred to the Powers and Privilege Committee, and this matter is investigated either by, you can even refer it to the DCI, you can refer to EACC, you can refer to the Powers and Privilege. But Mr. Speaker, I am not very comfortable because naming of a member, and many members have been named before, I never thought it will go to a debate. No, I don't think it will go to debate. And the Speaker, on a very light touch, Mr. Speaker, and with a lot of respect to Honorable Moses Kuria, Moses Kuria has tweeted many bad things about me when I was a leader of majority. He tweeted many bad things about you, Mr. Speaker, in the 11th Parliament. He has even tweeted many about, even I think after this matter happened, he tweeted worse things about the current leader of majority. And you know, there are people who have that freedom of using the social media platform. Some of us, we don't maybe use it. So, Mr. Speaker, give us direction, because if we go this route, that is my advice as a ranking member, if we go this route, we are making the whole House look bad in the eyes of the people of Kenya.
Yeah, Honorable John Bandi.
Mr. Speaker, whereas I may be persuaded to agree with Duale, but I want to disagree, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Makani Mulu stood on a specific point of order, Understanding Order 108, and asked you to name the honorable member for Gatundu South. And in the process, another member requested also to name the Honorable Ndindi Nyoro. I think is the majority whip. So, Mr. Speaker, we are operating under Standing Order 108. So the matter cannot be referred to powers and privileges. Number two, Mr. Speaker, I have no problem with Ndindi Nyoro naming anybody, including John Mbadi, so long as he has evidence. Our rules are very clear. You name and produce evidence. If you don't, you are forced to withdraw, and the matter rests there. It will not be unanswered. So, Mr. Speaker, nobody should fear being named. Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, if he has evidence, Mr. Speaker, should name. In fact, we should encourage him to name. Because, Mr. Speaker, this issue of bribery has become a joke in this country. And it must come to an end. Either you have evidence of bribery and we deal with it, or if you don't, then you should not utter those words. Because we all have reputation. By the way, Mr. Speaker, when you mentioned that some members, without specifying who, were bribed, then all of us stand indicted. Until now, you name the members. Finally, Mr. Speaker.
But Honorable John Band, even as you do that,
yes,
the Honorable Moses Kuria is holding a band of notes, Kenyan notes. What is that supposed to be?
Speaker.
You see now, this is how you trivialize debate. And this is how you have reduced yourselves to the level now. Why would an honorable member be coming here carrying a wand of notes? Surely. Honorable Moses Kuria, what is this now?
This guy is sick.
You know, Honorable Moses Kuria, you know, you started by saying that I made certain remarks about you. You know, I think, and I still insist, you need to spend a little more time here in the chamber. And please, read through the standing orders and internalize them. What is this you are doing now? This is not a market in Gatundu. I mean, now you are trying. What are you? And these are the people you are saying you want to.
Can I conclude, Mr. Speaker?
Conclude, Honorable Mbadi.
Mr. Speaker, I was just about to conclude, and really, Mr. Speaker, I think all of us, including, Mr. Speaker, there is some loud consultation. Mr. Speaker, sometimes members of parliament make names by being radical, principled, and, Mr. Speaker, standing for the country. But I want, Mr. Speaker, if someone could allow Honorable Ndindi Nyoro to listen a bit. There is a honorable member, I think it's Honorable Meli. Honorable Ashiali is distracting Honorable Ndindi Nyoro. I was just saying that there's nothing wrong with making a name out of being principled, being forthright, etc. But, Mr. Speaker, those individual Kenyans, dead and alive, who have made names in this house, have operated within the rules. In fact, if you follow the Hansard, you'll realize that those fiery politicians of the then years, whenever the Speaker called them to order, they were very obedient and would listen to the Speaker and do what the Speaker wants. There is a tendency, Mr. Speaker, there is a tendency which is gaining root in this house, and it is very dangerous. Mr. Speaker, I have disagreed with a lot of your rulings, Mr. Speaker, previously, but I have respected you, the chair. Any time you called me to order, Mr. Speaker, I get back to order. And, Mr. Speaker, honorable members must learn that. And I want to request my friend Ndindi Nyoro that you can make a name, but respect the house. Respect the August House. Respect the Speaker. If we don't respect the Speaker, if we don't fail to respect the chair, there will be no order in this house. And that would be the end of August House. Mr. Speaker, I want to just request that we operate under Standing Order 108. And, Mr. Speaker, but finally, Mr. Speaker, on the issue of Moses Kuria, the tweet was released when he was in the chamber. And if we can confirm that, Mr. Speaker, then he should be named. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, honourable members, I think I want to give direction as to how we are going to conclude this matter. Honourable Dede Nyoro, you have admitted that you refer to some people as traitors, cowards, conmen, and the rest. That is correct. But you are saying you are on your way to naming. Is that correct? Maybe.
Mr. Speaker, if you give me just 3 minutes, I'll
No. Can you first of all confirm that? Because you said you are now in the process of going.
Mr. Speaker, what I have is evidence. If you guide me to name now, I will name now.
Now, no, Honorable Dede Nyoro, did you refer to some members that way?
As what?
Conmen, traitors, sellouts, cowards.
Mr. Speaker, I referred to some people as cowards, traitors, and sellouts. But I also want to add, they are also sycophants and betrayers of the Kenyan people.
Very well. That's enough.
And Mr. Speaker.
That's enough. You may resume your seat. No. Now, honourable members, as you all know, in fact, you just reviewed the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act in 2016, 2017. So it must be very fresh in your minds. You're also aware that I have expressed my own reservations about some of the provisions, especially the processes contained in that act, especially with regard to the fact that any process, any proceedings must be reported to here in the House. And like any other business, be voted on. Not on the basis of evidence received by the committee, which is supposed to be a specialized committee, but on the basis of the usual standards in any House of Parliament, which is debate and politics. Yeah? I have actually expressed the desire that that act should be amended so that the Speaker should not be the chairman of that committee. Because it doesn't look very tidy that you'll go, as the Honorable Dwele indicated, sit not in plenary here, in some room, get evidence, some of it in great detail. And many of us would appreciate how you analyze on the basis of facts, the law, and evidence. And you make some finding. Then you come and, within no time, you are told, put the question. And the matter is over. One way or the other. Whether you are convicting or not convicting, I think there is need for you members, any one of you, to propose an amendment so that the speakers of the House of Parliament do not chair that committee. So that then the speakers can impartially preside over a debate on a report from the Committee of Powers and Privileges. It is not, because it's not very easy that you have sat, taken evidence, and then when it comes here, you're told, no, it is rubbish. It doesn't look, you see, everybody is a human being. And you may be doing it for many reasons. The members have even alluded to some of the reasons. Yeah? So, I think we will go to what is in our standing orders. And with respect to what the Honorable Dede Nyoro was about to do, I will therefore not allow the Honorable Dede Nyoro, and this is my ruling, to move in the direction of naming any member here in the plenary without a substantive motion. That is our standing orders. You cannot come and make disparaging remarks because in the form that you have admitted in your own words, Honorable Dede Nyoro, were you to name a member here without a substantive motion, you will be in breach of the standing orders. And therefore, I will be satisfied with your admission that you actually refer to members as such. With regard to the member for Gatundu South, who I have known also for a long time, it is good for me also to say this, because he also said, he claimed to have known me for some time. He knows I am incapable of getting intimidated or even getting annoyed by any remarks. He is at liberty to make whatever remarks. In fact, he has made several remarks about me, including one that after he saw me presiding at a church function somewhere in Uriri constituency, where the Honorable John Bandi was present, the Honorable Moses Kuria went ahead to claim that I had been fed with some fish, and that therefore, that's why I had said that the report of the Building Bridges Initiative cannot come here, which is still a fact. It could not come here except in the manner that it was, through a bill. And that's exactly what those who are present, the Honorable Mark Namit and the Honorable John Bandi and others, the member for, what do you call the member for Kuria East? Kitayama, yes, the Honorable Kitayama. All of them would have told the Honorable Kuria that's what we were discussing. But the Honorable Moses Kuria is at liberty, as he did that time, to claim that the Honorable John Bandi, who left the function even earlier to go to another one, that he fed me with some, I don't know, some species of fish, I don't know which one. The Honorable Moses Kuria knows best which one. But of course, these are all, I take them to be the things that entertain the Honorable Moses Kuria in his free time. Because I know during his free time, he's a very active member. And I cannot take it. It is not the kind of thing that in any way can make me hold anything against the honor of Moses Kuria, because I don't know what species of fish he himself prefers. Maybe some species of chicken or some other stuff. But the honor of Kuria is at liberty to hold views about himself, about me, about any other person. But the only thing that we request of all of us is, please, let us have respect for one another. Anything that disparages any one of us here, disparages the entire House and the entire institution of Parliament. So why would you want to call yourself a member of Parliament and you still want to destroy that same Parliament? Because any small bad thing you say out there, it will be the shame that is visited on that particular member is visited on all of us. So my plea to all of us is, please, let us have respect for one another. Even if you think somebody came here, howsoever, as long as that member is in this house, he remains one of your colleagues and an honorable member, deserving of your respect just as much as he or she would be expected to respect you. So, honorable members, I think, for me, I am convinced that the two honorable members, and particularly the member for Kiharu, has conducted himself in a manner that is not in keeping with the dignity of the House, and hereby invoke the provisions of Standing Order 108 and name you Mr. Dede Nyoro and reprimand you for your conduct. Honorable Dede Nyoro, you see, the honorable members, this is for this reason that I have been saying that it is important for us to spend some little bit of time here so that we get to know our rules. So the Honorable Dede Nyoro, that suffices. But any member is at liberty hereafter to move a motion for your suspension from the House in keeping with the provisions of Standing Order 108, subsection 2, paragraph A. Thank you. With respect to the Honorable Moses Kuria, who has clearly denied ever having made the statements that he is alleged to have made, I have no, I just, about the money which he has in his hand, that is his property. Where he takes it, how he uses it is his business. I will not direct Honorable Moses Kuria. No, he can donate it to a charity in Kamukunji. Because the Honorable Moses Kuria has clearly denied ever having made the statement that the Honorable Makali alleged he made, and I also, having not heard or seen it here, I decree that there is no further proceedings with regard to the Honorable Moses Kuria. I thank you, Honourable members. But, Honourable members, as I've said before, the issue of ethics and morality are sometimes matters of personal conscience, particularly for those of us in leadership positions. And in this regard, if there's any iota of truth, even though denied, I want to leave that to the conscience of the member to prick him. To prick him. I thank you, Honourable members. Honourable Mbandi. Yeah. Yeah.
We can have whip moving.
Honourable Wangwe.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, in line with your ruling that the Honourable Ndindi be named, I beg to move that the Honourable Ndindi Nyoro be now suspended from the House pursuant to Standing Orders 108.2A and 110. Honourable Speaker, I beg to move and ask my Deputy, the Honourable Maoka Maore, to second.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to second that Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, MP for Kiharu, be named, be suspended in according to Standing Order 108. And, Mr. Speaker, want to qualify by saying that at the moment we were voting, it was very easy to be excited and angry with what was happening, depending on the party you are. And that can be explained as a spur of the moment. But, Mr. Speaker, to come here and actually emphasize and threaten or even imagine that there is any explainable reason for those words is unacceptable to this House, and there is a reason why we call this room, it is different from any room that is out there. It is the presence of the August House. When you want to use one word, you call it the hallowed presence. It is not meant for juveniles. It is not meant for delinquents. It is not meant for the drunks. It is not meant for all the other adjectives that we can use to protect the dignity of those who come here. It does not matter what excitement is there. And, Mr. Speaker, I wish you had allowed the Honourable Member for Gatundu South to say what he was holding. What for? The story would have been different from what you have ruled. So, Mr. Speaker, I wish to seek the indulgence of the House that we need to teach the Honourable Ndindi Nyoro and the others who might wish to follow his path. Hakuna nduka inauza andabu. hakuna nduka inauza andabu. It is taught. Mr. Speaker, I wish to second the motion.
Honourable members, and the member for Endebess, I invite you to also have a look at Standing Order 108. There is no debate. Honourable members, I put the question, which is that Mr. Dede Nyoro be suspended in the first instance. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as the contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The ayes have it. Sorry, honour members, you don't have the threshold. You don't have the threshold to claim for a division. It therefore means that the motion is carried. Honour members. Now even that that behavior, honour members, is not good. Honour members. It therefore means, and honour members, I want to just explain to you the standing orders, your standing orders, and this is in reference to the point made by the Honourable Duale. The standing order, your own standing orders are crafted in such a way as to treat you with a lot of dignity. It's for that reason that understanding Order 110, now that the motion has been carried, the Honorable Dede Nyoro can only be and will only be suspended from the precincts of Parliament, including his office, for the period of 4 days. You must follow your own standing orders. For the period of 4 days, including today. These are your standing orders, and they are done that because you are supposed to be treated with dignity. But the recess period is obviously not counted. So, the Honourable Dede Nyoro, please make your way out of the House and out of the precincts of Parliament. Start your 4 days. Honorable Dede Nyoro, that is inviting, you don't make noise. Just go to Kiharu or wherever. Yes, Honorable Duale.
Mr. Speaker, just to remind members that in line with the standing orders, I think they need to consult Honorable Chair of Public Accounts Committee, who was a victim of this, even worse, and until the Powers and Privilege Committee rescinded and forgave him. So, Mr. Speaker, the standing orders are very, very clear. So I think it's good our friend Honorable Nyinyi got 4 days, but you can go and ask Honorable Wandai, because he went for more days, and you miss many privileges, even the freedom of thought and freedom of speech that you enjoy within the prison of Parliament, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I agree that you have saved the situation, and I think the standing orders 108. I really wanted Honorable Nyinyi to be forgiven, but looks like he doesn't want to be forgiven for even other crimes.
Now let's go back to business now. No, it's not about that. We can't spend the whole day on that. Member for Kilifi North.
Yes. We have already voted.
We are through without those issues now.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to request that I presented an amendment act to the Chiefs Amendment Act in July 2019. We prosecuted this matter at the committee and also at the budget committee. But up to today, this has never come back to me. I have made many follow-ups with the clerk of the committee, with the chairperson of the committee. But, Mr. Speaker, can I catch the attention of the Speaker, for a minute? So, Mr. Speaker, I have made many attempts to get feedback on this so that a report is written for me to be able to know whether we can proceed with or not. I would like to request your indulgence, Mr. Speaker, that you request the clerk to forward the report, write the report and forward the report, so that you can also use your discretion whether it's a money bill or not, that it be debated in this chamber. But the time it has taken from July 2019 to today, I have tirelessly followed this matter, and I would like to request your indulgence and the direction on the matter, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Director Legislative Services is here, so you take up that matter and let's get the report as soon as the House resumes.
Much obliged, sir.
Yes. Honorable Sankok, what's your...
Honorable Speaker, I had a request that I wanted you to address, Honorable Speaker, because, Honorable Speaker, there is a parking that is normally reserved for persons with disability. It is internationally recognized. The sign is known all over the world that it is reserved for persons with disability, and it is not for cosmetic, Honorable Speaker. Some members, Honorable Speaker, if they are dropped on the front of this House, Honorable Speaker, they will need to be carried to the chambers, Honorable Speaker. If they are dropped very far, it will be very difficult for them to access these chambers, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, so specifically, the parking for persons with disability is just opposite the door that goes to our media center, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, but honorable members don't read those signs. Honorable Speaker, even members of staff end up parking their cars in those parking, Honorable Speaker. Today, Honorable Speaker, we have complained severally, and we have told the security people and the sergeant-at-arms to preserve those parking for members with disability and staff with disability, Honorable Speaker. Today I met a car registered number KCU 396S, Honorable Speaker, KBS 597F, parked on the parking that is reserved for persons with disability. If you have the ability to walk across the streets, some of us don't have that ability. If you have the ability to walk upstairs, some of us don't have that ability, and some of the reserve parking are specific so that we access ramps so that we can be able to access these chambers. So, Honorable Speaker, I ask for your protection.
Now, I think that matter would be taken up by the clerk, and the sergeant-at-arms is advised to enforce. The sergeant-at-arms is the one who is supposed to enforce, but the clerk will take up the matter.
Thank you, sir.
To ensure that those reserved parkings are not taken up by other people or other members who may be not qualified to park in those spaces. Now, how these members who have raised no, let's get the leader majority to move this next order.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move the
Order number 8, procedural motion, consideration of certain business received during the recess period.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move the following procedural motion, that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order number 120, 122, and 126, relating to publication procedure upon publication and first reading of bills, and Standing Order number 210, subsection 2, relating to tabling of statutory instruments, This House orders that during the period of the May long recess, 14th of May to 7th of June 2021, number 1, should a bill be published during the said period, or a published bill become due for first reading during the period, the Speaker shall, upon lapse of at least 7 days following the publication of the bill, the fulfillment of the provisions of Article 110(3) of the Constitution, and following a determination that such a bill is of priority, forthwith refer the bill to the relevant committee for consideration, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 127, Committee of Bills to Committees and Public Participation. And upon resumption of the House, cause the bill to be read a first time, and the second reading may be taken forthwith, or on such other day as the House Business Committee may determine. Number 2, should any statutory instrument be transmitted for tabling before the House during the period, the Speaker shall, following a determination the statutory period is of priority, forthwith refer the statutory instrument to the relevant committee for consideration and cause the statutory instrument to be tabled in the House during its next sitting in accordance with the provisions of Section 11 of the Statutory Instruments Act number 3 of 2013. Number 3, should any paper be transmitted for tabling before the House during the period, the Speaker shall, following a determination that the paper is of priority, forthwith refer the paper to the relevant committee for consideration and cause the paper to be tabled in the House during its next sitting. And lastly, number 4, upon submission of the report of the relevant committee on the vetting of a nominee for appointments as the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, as envisaged under Article 166, subsection 1 of the Constitution, the Speaker shall, upon approval of the report, forthwith cause the report to be circulated to all members in electronic form ahead of any special sittings of the House convened pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 29 to consider the said business so as to accord members time to apprise themselves on the contents of the report. Mr. Speaker, this is a procedural motion. We do it every time we are going on recess, and basically it's to ensure ourselves against delays in the processing of business that come before the House when we are away, to ensure that bills, notices, and all that can be channeled to the committee so the committees can look at it, and by the time we come back, we report. So it's something we do every time we go on break, and I seek members' support for this so that as we go home today, over the next 3 weeks, committees can continue considering, in addition to the budgetary matters, can also continue proceed with consideration of any urgent matters that will be referred to them without necessarily having to come for plenary before they get to them. Mr. Speaker, the straightforward matter, I beg to move and ask the leader of Minority Party, John Buddy, to second.
Honourable Buddy. Mr. Speaker, in seconding, I just want to say the following. Number 1, we have timelines for the approval of the nominee for the Chief Justice office. And Mr. Speaker, we are likely to have a special sitting. But now when the report is ready from the committee, instead of waiting to have a sitting to have the report tabled, what is being suggested here is that the report could be circulated to members well in advance of the special sitting to discuss and debate this matter. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, there are possibility of some bills being published, and those bills really don't have to wait for the House to reconvene for the bills to proceed to the committees. Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I second.
Honourable members, I propose the question, which is that notwithstanding the provision of standing orders 120, 122, and 126 relating to publication, procedure upon publication, and first reading of bills, and standing order 210, subsection 2, relating to the tabling of statutory instruments, this House orders that during the period of the May long recess between 14th of May to 7th of June 2021, 1, should a bill be published during the same period, or a published bill becomes due for first reading during the period, the Speaker shall, upon lapse of at least 7 days following the publication of the bill, the fulfillment of the provisions of Article 110, subclause 3 of the Constitution, and following a determination that such bill is a priority, forthwith refer the bill to the relevant committee for consideration pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 127, and upon resumption of the House, cause the bill to be read a first time, and the second reading may be taken forthwith or on such other day as the House Business Committee may determine. 2, should any statutory instrument be transmitted for tabling before the House during the period, Speaker shall, following a determination that the statutory instrument is of priority, forthwith refer the statutory instrument to the relevant committee for consideration and cause the statutory instrument to be tabled in the House during its next sitting in accordance with the provisions of Section 11 of the Statutory Instruments Act No. 3 of 2013. 3, should any paper be transmitted for tabling before the House during the period, the Speaker shall, following a determination that the paper is of priority, forthwith refer the paper to the relevant committee for consideration and cause the paper to be tabled in the House during its next sitting. And 4, upon the submission of the report of the relevant committee on the vetting of a nominee for appointment as the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya as envisaged under Article 166, Clause 1 of the Constitution, the Speaker shall, upon approval of the report, forthwith cause the report to be circulated to all members in electronic form ahead of any special sittings of the House convened pursuant to the provision Standing Order 29 to consider the same business, so as to accord members time to apprise themselves on the contents of the report. I put the question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Orders 120, 122, and 126, and Standing Order 210, subsection 2, this House orders that during the period of the May long recess between 14th of May to 7th of June 2021, the business as listed as order number 8 shall be carried in the manner proposed. Will as many as that opinion say aye? Aye. As many of the contrary opinions say no. The ayes have it. Honourable members, but I hope, honourable members, we appreciate that what the Honourable John Bandi did say, especially with regard to the item number 4. It will be circulated electronically so that members do not then, if they are called, don't come and say that it has just been tabled. That clarification made by the Honourable John Bandi is important. Next order.
Order number 9, motion, formulation of parliamentary broadcasting channels. Second reading, question to be put.
Honourable members, Member Wakiumo, you just walked in and you're not able to sit. Honourable members, I put the question that this House adopts the report of the Select Committee on Parliamentary Broadcasting and Library on the formulation of parliamentary broadcasting channels laid on the table of the House on Thursday, December 3rd, 2020. Will as many as that opinion say aye? Aye. As many as contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 10, the Public-Private Partnership Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2021, second reading.
Honourable Speaker, I beg to move that the Public-Private Partnerships Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2021, be read a second time. Honourable Speaker, this bill went through the first reading on 25th of March 2021 and was thereafter committed to the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning pursuant to Standing Order number 127. Honourable Speaker, as you all know, our great republic has been engaged in a whole flurry of activities to do with infrastructure development ranging from roads, hospitals, railways, and all other forms of social development that is critical for opening up the economy and creating job opportunities and creating the transport corridors that will facilitate farmers to get their inputs into their farms and outputs into the market, facilitate industry in terms of goods as raw materials and as final products to the markets, our interconnectivity with the rest of the region, and as part of enhancing our trade capabilities, our airports, our ports, and all this infrastructure development, we can see them. They are all over, including the electrification programs and all that. However, we all know that these capital projects, these investments, are heavily capital intensive. And we also know our limitations in terms of our revenue streams, be they in terms of taxation. Kenyans are also constantly talking of, we don't want any more taxation, we don't want to burden our future generations, including, and I believe that is well within Kenyans people to view. So when you now look at the dwindling resources, unless we become slightly more innovative in terms of our financing mechanism for development projects, we are unlikely to achieve our development objectives. Now, one of the most innovative ways of financing development projects has been the private-public partnerships, where a public project is then partnered with the private sector and with each deriving a certain benefit. So the private sector will put in their money, will put in their design, will put in their expertise, and then run the project over a predetermined period of time, collecting all the revenues, which will obviously have to be agreed upon. And at the end of that process, then hand over the project to the public sector. Basically, releasing the money that the public sector would have used to commit to that project to do other projects that are perhaps more urgent. For example, right now, the choice is between, do we do roads or do we do COVID mitigation? Do we do roads or do we pay for education? We are paying upwards of 27% of our budget for education only. If that 27%, which is because there's a constitutional commitment that all basic education is compulsory and free. We had to provide water in sufficient quantities. We had to provide for our socially, people who are not quite endowed. And this all takes money away into recurrent expenditure. And you find all this debate, and we keep talking about it, and John Buddy keeps reminding us that perhaps we're even borrowing to finance recurrent expenditure. But what choice do we have? When we have to do all these things because they are constitutional obligation under the 2010 Constitution. Before 2010, before 2013, we did not have to finance education beyond primary school. Now we have to do it up to O-level. We have to do TVETs. We have to do capitation in universities, including private universities. Now all these are obligations that have come that need to be factored into the budget. And hence, it takes away money that would otherwise go to development projects. So PPPs then come in, that's the public-private partnerships, then provide this window for private capital to fund public projects, especially the ones with a long-term quantifiable benefit to both parties. Now, the intent of this bill, this is not a new initiative. It's been there from 2012. It was first captured within the Public-Private Partnerships Act of 2013, and which has become antiquated and requires some modification in line of some of the hindrances, the lessons that have been learned over the last 10 years, when it was 8 years, when it has been in operation. So the intent of this bill is really to streamline this area of law to further encourage foreign direct investments in line with the government's industrialization agenda, in line with the Big Four agenda. We have the housing projects, the 500,000 housing units that need to be done. We have industrialization needs to be done. We need roads to enable those Agenda 4. And the opening up of even agricultural estates for food security. This bill, just first of all to look at it, broadly has 87 clauses. It's now a comprehensive bill encompassing what was there in 2013, the amendments that were brought in 2017, which again was bringing in the issue of counties. And this has been, was passed through this House, was subsequently taken to the Senate. Senate came back with amendment. It went through mediation. And in between, while waiting to discuss the mediated version of the PP, of the bill, it became clear that there were still some other issues that needed to be amended, because the emphasis on the amendment that were brought in 2017 was on matters to do with counties. But then there were other national matters that had not been legislated. And based on the experience and what the feedback from the people wanting to engage, it became clear that the natural route would be stop tinkering with the individual pieces, do a comprehensive bill that covers both national and county projects within a holistic framework, and hence the birth of this new bill. So it seeks to provide for the participation of the private sector, not only in the financing, in the construction, in the development, in the operational maintenance of infrastructure development projects, again through these partnerships, and also to streamline that regulatory framework for the PPPs. I did mention, obviously, that this is really now a consolidated thing, taking into account the PPP bill of 2017 and the 2013, plus new thinking that has come. And some of the changes you find is this bill, for example, intends to reduce the committee members. Within the mediated version, there was a proposal that the composition of the members should be 15. Now, 15 members in a committee is such a, it's the more members you have in a committee, the longer the decision making, and hence, good standards mean that the ideal committee should be between 6 and not more than 12. The Mwongozo Code also talks about those numbers. So this bill then intends to reduce the PPP committee members to 10 from 15. Now, instead of having 7 principal secretaries sitting in a committee, basically it's like everyone wants to be there. And getting them all together and all that just delays the wheel. So this bill is looking at having not more than 3, and also removing the Attorney General, who will be replaced by the Solicitor General, who is really the principal secretary in the Attorney General's office. And 3 persons from the private sector, 1 person representing the Council of Governors, and a Director General. So it makes it so simple in terms of the number of people that we'll be having, and also the variety. Now, in respect to the functions and powers of the PPP committee, the committee has also been given some more policy direction functions, while some of the technical functions have been assigned to a directorate, which was formerly a clause, and this is under clauses 15 and 19. Madam Speaker, due to the delays occasioned by requiring, again, cabinet approval of all the projects that are listed from the various ministries, this bill has then gone ahead and removed cabinet approval requirements and empowered then the PPP directorate to consider and approve the project list from ministries and the, and the supporting concept papers, And then to periodically, we'll then obviously brief cabinets and all that. But as in the original bill, the 2013, the architecture was such that, ministries would generate a list of bills that need to go for PPP. It goes to cabinet. Now that depends on when cabinet will meet next and whether the item will actually be reached when it's on the agenda. Then after that, it then goes, so it's lots of bureaucracy over bureaucracy. And at the end of it all, we are talking of a whole government approach. It's ministries proposing to co-ministries. So instead of all that, then the ministries do it through the directorate. It's approved, cabinet is aware, and then it's processed through this committee that has government representation. So again, this is part of speeding up the decision making, and you see why. This bill has also, which is a different change, it was not there in 2013, it was not there in the mediated version, has also introduced local content provisions, which gives now clarity on how do the local communities, how do the local services, how are they supposed to be tapped into any PPP? We got this Nairobi Express Highway, over Uhuru Highway. It was won by a Chinese group. They're doing their thing. But where is the provision for local content to be inbuilt within that, right? It's not in the law. So what this bill is now proposing to do is when somebody comes to do the next PPP, it could be a flyover, it could be a road over Kiabu Road, or it could be a road over Limuru Road, or somewhere in Eldoret or somewhere in Mandera. Having that PPP, then there will be some provision for using local content so that the local community also feel a sense of ownership into the project. So I think I don't want to belabor the point, but I just highlighted those 4 items to see the difference we have between the 2013, the 2017, and this bill, so that it's an improvement. It also proposes timelines on key project processes and stages for more efficient and predictable project development environment. And this is critical because of the need for that predictability. For those of you who, members, Madam Speaker, who may be in the know, discussions over this Uhuru Highway overpass began way back in 2004, and we are now in 2021, 17 years ago. We wasted 17 years of debate, one group coming, another one going, and of course, the project escalates, the benefits are delayed. I believe there's members who are talking of the traffic jam on Mombasa Road because of some of these things. Yet we could have been congested, all these things, by the time we're doing Thika Road. In fact, we were supposed to have done in a seamless way, do Thika Road all the way to the overpass. Right now, we know what has happened. We had settled for a road with some grass, a road with some trees. Now it's all been uprooted. So it's all these costs, removal of services because they were put in the wrong place. And we can't do it like that. So timelines will be inculcated into that. And I do hope by the time we finish some of these things, is people will now be enticed to then go into Lamu, the government having done the first 3 bads, to then get the private sector to say, yes, we can come in because you have a legal framework that is conducive. We can create the extra 15 bars on a PPP and get the Port of Lamu working. So I really don't want to get in terms of the details. I believe PPPs are clear-cut. Everyone understands how they work. The other thing I just want to highlight, and I said I will come back to this, is the PPP Act of 2013, and which I'm happy, I had some input into it all the way from my time in Treasury, 2007, to create the PPP. It didn't see the light of day until 2013. But despite this act being in place for these 8 years, there's only 2 projects that have achieved financial closure, which tells you, yet there's lots of projects, but only 2. And these 2 is lot number 33 of the roads annuity program. Members who are in the previous house will remember there was an annuity program for roads, which nobody seemed to understand, nobody seemed to appreciate why we needed to go that direction. But one road, the Gong, Kajiado, Imaroro, Mashuru Road, which is 91 kilometers, was the only one that was done under that project and completed in 2020. And it's a lovely road. And it's open to public use. But the issue with it is that instead of the government now committing the billions that would have been committed, noting that government does not receive its money on a monthly basis as we pay our monthly taxes, then it needs to figure out, synchronize its development outlays to the same funding mechanism on a monthly basis. So instead of borrowing the billions and you pay over time, if somebody can do it and you use the road and you pay on a monthly basis, you're able to use your monthly income to provide services for 90 on a monthly basis. And that road is perhaps the only one that's come. The only other PPP project is what I've been talking about, the Nairobi Expressway project, which is currently under construction, and there's a target date of December 2021. Now evidence then shows that the slow implementation of PPPs is evident that there are actually challenges, chiefly attributable to the legal framework, because it's not conducive to attract the kind of investors we want. Yet there's a lot of money out there waiting for investment. And you've seen people putting it on in buildings and everything else. People are moving to countries where there's conducive environment. They are opening up things, because putting money in the bank, especially in the West, where the interest rates are tending towards the negative, you're actually losing money by having it in the bank. So you would rather have that money released into some project that earns you some return into the future, especially when you believe that the country can provide you the conducive environment. This bill is also expanding the scope of arrangements that qualify as PPPs, and also the scope of available procurement methods by introducing what we're calling now the direct procurement as one of the approved methods. Previously, all you needed is the government to say, we want to do this road, and people would then bid on who can do it better. But here we are having a situation where you want something done, including somebody coming and said, the so-called privately initiated investment proposal, where somebody could just come and say, I would like to dualize Mombasa to Voi section because I've done my maths and I believe that I can make money, or I want to do from Lunga to Kiunga. I've done my maths and I can make money from it. And we allow them to do that. And it used to happen in the past. I mean, for those who may remember, the old Nyali Bridge used to be on a PPP by Kenya Bus and other places. So these things have been done. You charge your toll, you make your money, then you surrender the project. But when you come now with your Lunga to Kiunga road, and you've done all your numbers, then you are told, under the law, we need to advertise. So your own project is then used to compete with other people who have not even invested in it. And knowing the seepage and the leakage of information that we have, your own data is used by your competitors, and before you know, your project has been taken to somebody else. So we want to have this situation where you come up with an innovative project, you want to help the public in a certain way. I want to do a road in Kipipiri, and I believe I can do it. Let me be allowed, or electrification in Kipipiri. Let me be allowed. We agree with the government what can happen. I get paid my money, and the public get the full benefit. You can imagine all these county governments that are saying they don't have hospitals. They don't have headquarters. All we needed is get a local landlord to do the county headquarters, to do a hospital, then list it out to the county government. So you find the immediate benefit, they pay on a monthly basis, and they don't have to tie billions in capital expenditure when all they need is delivery of services. And I think these are the kind of things that we are now looking at, because the demand for services is there, and we don't have money. So that's the kind of direct procurement that we'll be talking of. I also did mention this bill is about reduction in terms of bottlenecks, in terms of steps that are necessary. One of the other things it's doing, it's actually reducing the approvals that are necessary. From currently, you need 12 approvals to only 3. And it's also, like I said, limits the cabinet role in the PPP process to policy and not the contract approval, which makes it faster. Madam Speaker, the bill also now has some certain provisions in terms of its institutional infrastructure. It gives the Director General a 4-year term, which is strategic because it's informed by the need to have the DG in office for a reasonable period that is neither too short nor too long, which gives it a certain amount of independence and limits the political interference and influence. County governments, like I said, this bill is now comprehensive. It brings in both national and county. And county governments will now be brought into this bill as contracting authorities. And like I said, within the board, the committee, there's a representative of the Council of Governors who will obviously take care of the interests of the counties. Unlike previously, counties were basically wrongly described as the PPP Act of 2013, which then triggered all these conflicts that the amendments of 2017 attempted to sort out. And this county representation has also been introduced even in the, not just in the PPP committee, but also in the petitions committee. So they were represented. The bill has also provided for all this other procurement process and detailed the various arrangements at our second schedule, which makes it very clear now for all parties, especially our potential investors, because as you know, when you look at the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act of 2015, as indeed all laws, they are really designed to keep off, designed with mischief in mind, from a point of view of, distrust. We believe everyone selling to government is likely to steal. So let's make the law so difficult, that you must pass so many hurdles to prove you're not stealing from the public, rather than facilitating you to do business. And hence, you end up with anything being bought by the government. When you load all those approvals and steps that you have to comply with, and each has a cost, you end up with, if you are to buy this water directly from the shops, you buy it a fraction of what a government institution will buy by the time it lands here, because of all those bottlenecks that we do. And cost of doing business then becomes too much. So this is all about easing all that, so that the chaps who are doing the Nairobi Expressway can risk their money for the time they have, do the best quality, because the road must survive the time they need to investment and give it back and maintain it. And hence, they don't have to keep, having to get engineers going there to check and counter-check and tell them to redo, like we see in disputes, and it frustrates the contractors. The bill has also provided for foreign exchange, and inflation and interest rates adjustment, because, of course, we know all these development projects, they have a longer time frame. They are more likely to involve foreign currency, both in terms of investment and in terms of cost, and involving borrowings, and hence, if you don't input all these things, an exogenous shock, like the COVID comes in and the markets go gaga, somebody could well be hit hardly for this, and yet they're doing it for public good. If anything happens, then you need to know how are you ensuring both the private person and the public sector. I could go on and on. This is a topic I love. The bill provides also contract timelines, again, for the various PPP projects. And like I said before, you can imagine if we're doing this expressway as a public sector under the supervision of the Ministry of Works, perhaps we will still be at this design point. Yeah? But you can see the workings that the private sector is doing because it's in their interest to complete the project fast enough so that they can start reaping the benefit of this project. Because once you're told you have 20 years on this project, if you spend 5 years in doing the project, you only have 15 years to recoup your money. But if you're able to do it in 2 years, then you have an extra 3 years in terms of earnings. So that kind of incentive is important for achieving project objectives in good time and not continue just being on construction mode. And I'm not saying that the Ministry of Infrastructure is slow, but we've also seen some roads that have taken up to 5 years. There's some road in Okarau town, a 4-kilometer town road that started in the last time of Parliament. 4 kilometers of road within a town, and it's still being ongoing. Yeah, that's more 4 kilometers. And we've seen others elsewhere, but we've seen the speed with which this expressway, and also the lot 33 that I talked earlier, the speed they were executed. So, Honorable Speaker, this bill, I believe, will go a long way in enabling Kenya to achieve better quality infrastructure, to reduce reliance on the exchequer for development, create more job opportunities for Kenyans, and facilitate ministries and current county governments to provide expertise to the PPP agenda. Members, I think when we have traveled in our benchmarking, you will note all the highways in the US. Most of those highways are actually private projects, and that's why they are tolled. And so long as you want to use the smooth highway with all the overpasses and that speeds up your point A to point B, your transition, then you pay the toll. If you don't want that, you go through the public road, and you could be in a jam for ages. I think that's a kind of flexibility we also want in Kenya, so that at all points we can have all these variations of people looking at, yes, if I create this overpass, it will help the people move faster. It will also give me an opportunity to recoup my investment while making business flow faster and mobility. And people don't have to be congested in jams. And you can think of this, like I said, it's not limited to roads. It could also be in hospitals. There's no reason why Nairobi Hospital cannot team up with Kenyatta Hospital to do public, to put up a hospital in Kenyatta grounds to treat public people using the expertise from the private sector. This is, there is simply no limit as to the kind of variety of PPPs that could be started. I know that there are several amendments that the committee has proposed, and I'm sure the chair of the committee will be sharing some of those with us. And I want to really thank the committee because, like I said, this bill was only introduced in the House in March of 2021. The committee took it upon themselves. They've done the public participation. They've discussed with the various people. They've internalized, what was there in 2013, what was there in 2017, what is there currently. And if we all remember that we already passed this through the 2017, perhaps in terms of the new matters, it's not been that much. We can be able to debate this and finish it. And hopefully have it into law in the next couple of days or even weeks, so that as the rest of the world is beginning to recover from COVID, and people are looking for where do we take our money? Kenya will be there, already saying, we have simplified business laws because we changed in this house the business law regime. We simplified most of those things. We will also be telling them we have a modern and simplified PPP framework that you can come and participate. We also have a new constitutional order or we are going to have a new constitutional order that guarantees peace and unity and avoid the turbulence that we see during elections, which is one of the things that keeps off investors, because they want to see that predictability. And I mean, the sum total of all these investments in terms of legal framework, in terms of political framework, in terms of economic framework, is what will happen, what will help increase the flow of direct investments, foreign investments into the country, which will spur the development we need, create the jobs that we need, revamp our economic base so that the taxation can go up, and we are able to even repay some of the loans that we took to do things that perhaps we should have funded through these PPPs. For example, we could have funded the railway through PPP. We could have funded a number of these roads through PPPs, yet so that all that money could now have gone into other social interventions to secure the vulnerable groups and others. So, Madam Speaker, like I said, I love this topic, and I love the changes that are coming in this bill. I want to encourage even our own Kenyan investors. I know we have the highway was done by the Chinese. Lot 33 was done by a Kenyan company. So it's not, this thing is not about foreigners. Even Kenyans can participate in these initiatives. I want to encourage them to take advantage, and when we pass this law, to actually now have a whole lineup of projects people think they can do, not just at the national level, in our constituencies, in our counties, to spur development across the entire country. With those remarks, Madam Speaker, I beg to move and ask the Honorable Gladys Wanga, the Chair of the Finance Committee, to second.
Honorable Wanga. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to second this bill, the Public-Private Partnerships Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2021, that has been very ably and passionately moved by the Honorable Leader of Majority. Honorable Speaker, this bill was published on 26th February 2021 and read a first time on 25th March 2021, and thereafter committed to the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning, pursuant to Standing Order number 127. Honorable Speaker, for the record, the committee conducted public participation pursuant to Article 118(1)(b) of the Constitution and Standing Order 127, and received written memoranda and oral submissions from the National Treasury, the Public-Private Partnerships Unit, the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya, the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority, the Council of Governors, the Engineers Board of Kenya, and the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. Honorable Speaker, all stakeholders were in support of the bill, but proposed amendments which the committee put into consideration while preparing the proposed committee amendments, and some of the proposals were adopted, forming part of the committee's amendments. Honorable Speaker, as has been elaborated by the Leader of Majority, PPPs target to unlock funds that exist within the private sector to enable us foster economic development without necessarily always falling back on money from our exchequer. Honorable Speaker, there's been a lot of debate, national debate around the issue of our growing public debt. One of the ways and one of the reasons why my committee, the Finance Committee, took the matter as serious and urgent, and one of the reasons why we moved with speed to engage the stakeholders on this matter is so that we are able to provide a legal framework within which we can attract private money, so that the debate on public debt, we can find other avenues, because the country has to develop. We must chew gum and scale the stairs. So we must look at how to get vaccines, or how to educate our children and fund free primary or secondary education, while at the same time providing infrastructure and becoming the hub of the region in terms of investment and development. And one of those avenues through which we shall be successful is by providing this legal framework for public-private partnerships. Honorable Speaker, the Majority Leader did mention that since the passing of the PPP Act of 2013, and which has now been in place for close to 8 years, only 2 projects have been brought to financial closure. So of course there is a problem, because if you have only done 2, you've only closed 2 projects in 8 years, then you must look at where the gaps are. And when the legal framework was looked at, this is what resulted in the amendments that have been brought in this PPP Bill of 2021. As the Majority Leader elaborated, the one that came in 2017 was to bring in county governments, so that county governments would also become players. But this particular bill is to, nobody wants to go to, get into a partnership. No private person bringing their money would like to get into a partnership that will take 5 years or 3 years to negotiate before you arrive at where you want to go. And then you're told, okay, wait, we have now negotiated, we are now waiting for cabinet. Oh, cabinet met, but our agenda was not reached, so let us wait for another 2 weeks. Or the president is out of the country at the moment, so let us wait for another month. And months go by and years go by. What will happen ultimately is that this person, because this is a private person with their own money, they will look for another place. They will go to Ethiopia, they will go to Tanzania, they will go to another regime that will accept their money as quickly as possible. So this is why it is critical that we review this act with a view of reducing the bureaucracy and getting an enabling legal framework so that we can close more deals. And Honorable Speaker, I am happy that the PPP unit has now, revamped and has gotten, really the required skill on board so that we can close deals. Because PPP is about investment, it's about business. It's not so much about engineers or the projects themselves. It's about business. It's about having competent staff there who will think, which is this deal if we close, the person will get their return on investment and the country will benefit from the project. So, Honorable Speaker, this bill will enable Kenya to achieve better quality infrastructure and reduce reliance on exchequer for development, and hence reduce the need for seeking loans to undertake development projects. It will also facilitate ministries and county governments to provide expertise to the PPP agenda. And most importantly, Honorable Speaker, or very important, in clause 77 of this bill, there is the introduction of local content. When Kenyans might think about PPP, and Majority Leader has alluded to this, and think about it as a foreign concept or a concept to enable foreign money, but you will be surprised at how much money even Kenyans themselves have and do not know where to invest. So this provision for local content is such that even if you have a foreign company or a foreign person coming in to carry out a program, there will be room mandatorily for local content. And that is very, very important because it will enable Kenyans get jobs and business opportunities. Honorable Speaker, there is a provision now for a fully fledged directorate for the PPP so that you can be able to attract enough good stuff. And what happened previously in the 2013 law, there were what are called nodes, which are PPP units in every contracting authority. So such that if you went to Kenya as an example, Kenya would have to have a PPP unit, some water board somewhere will have to have a PPP unit, and these were called nodes in every contracting authority. But what this bill has done, because of the expertise required to close deals, it has created a directorate that can attract the skill set that we need to close these deals. So the directorate will take the place of all the nodes that we had in the various contracting authorities. So, Honorable Speaker, the bill reduces bureaucracy as it reduces statutory approvals by the PPP committee from 12 to 3. Previously, you would have to go through 12 sets of approvals. Oh, come back. Okay, is this your proposal? Okay, go. Is this the feasibility study? Okay, go to the committee. And you know the committee, as is set out in the bill, consists of principal secretaries. So you have the principal secretary National Treasury, the principal secretary Planning, the principal, up to 10 principal secretaries. By the time you put these people, all of them together, and you get a time that they are available to meet, to look through your feasibility study, you're looking at a nightmare. So that has been reduced from 12 to 3. And then it limits the role of cabinet to policy and not contract approval. So cabinet will give a guideline, and then the committee and the directorate will now move to seal the deals or conclude the contracts. Honorable Speaker, it also defines county governments as contracting authorities and has representatives of the Council of Governors on the committee. The reason is a lot of these projects actually go on in counties, and some of them fall within mandate of county governments, hospitals or sometimes water projects as examples. Honorable Speaker, it provides for procurement process for a PPP, which is not covered in the Public Procurement and Assets Disposal Act of 2015, and I'll speak a bit to that on what the committee's thoughts were. It provides for contract timelines, which was not covered in the PPP Act, and that the Majority Leader has alluded to. Honorable Speaker, apart from providing the time within which when you submit your proposal, for example, the time within which you get feedback, there is also the provision for timelines for the time within which, after you get into a PPP, the time within which you must begin that contract. Because, Honorable Speaker, you find that there is a PPP that was signed for the Rironi-Nakuru-Mau Summit Road, the one that we signed with the French, and up to date, they want to come back for renegotiation upon renegotiation without starting the project. So what the bill is also doing, one of the amendments we are proposing, is to have a period within which you have to begin the project. We are proposing a 6-month period within which, after signing the contract, you must now begin the project and not create any further room for negotiation and renegotiation. Some of the issues that were observed by the committee, Honorable Speaker, is this bill, mainly, if you look at the bill itself, and members might have had a chance to look at the bill, right from clause 36, 37, through to clause 60-something, it's all about procurement, procurement processes for PPPs. And one of the issues the committee was concerned about is why can't PPPs follow the Public Procurement and Assets Disposal Act, or why can't these modalities of procurement be included within that act? But, Honorable Speaker, it was clearly explained that it is important to note that PPPs being special arrangements, where more often you are actually dealing with private funds, you cannot subject them to the Public Procurement and Assets Disposal Act. They are unique in comparison to budget-based projects, and as the Majority Leader is whispering there, they are apples and oranges. Because if I'm coming in with my money, you don't want to subject me to a public procurement process. I want to come in with a proposal and say, I'd like to do A, B, C, and I'll bring in my funding, and I can recover my funding from my own studies within this amount of time. And that is why it is important to note that Section 42E of the Public Procurement and Assets Disposal Act of 2015 lists PPPs as one of the procurements to which the Act does not apply. Consequently, PPPs are excluded from the scope of application of the Public Procurement and Assets Disposal Act. The issue of representation in the PPP committee was a concern because in reducing the number of representatives, especially principal secretaries within the PPP committee, one of the principal secretaries that was still retained is the principal secretary for industrialization. So the committee felt we can have the principal secretary for national treasury, the principal secretary for planning, principal secretary for infrastructure, and then have the rest of the principal secretaries co-opted on the basis of which project is being discussed at any given time. Because otherwise you would have all principal secretaries of all the departments, because at some point you will be dealing with a project on power. You need the principal secretary for energy. At some point you will be dealing with a project on a hospital. You need the principal secretary for health or their representative at any given time. So that is one of the thoughts that the committee had. The committee felt that the scope for qualifications for the position of Director General should be looked at. Currently, it's a bit narrow. The bill is also silent on the process of recruitment of the Director General. This being a position in the public service, the committee felt that the bill should expressly provide for this recruitment in order to ensure that filling up of the position is done competitively in a transparent manner. In that case, the committee proposed that recruitment be vested in the Public Service Commission. There's a whole conversation and discussion around how the staff of the directorate are recruited. There's the issue of secondment of staff, which was seen as a good proposal. Honorable Speaker, the other key issue that we thought about is the role of Parliament in the PPPs. The role of Parliament in approval of PPPs should be clearly outlined. Because, Honorable Speaker, this Parliament approves budgets for every project that is conducted in this country. This Parliament is also provided with, as the BPS comes, it also comes with the status of our debt. So we felt as a committee that the issue of PPPs, that we must find a mechanism through which the PPPs at a global level, not on a day-to-day basis, but at a global level, Parliament is appraised of which PPPs the country is getting into. Because there's also the aspect of contingent liability, which the government has to, assign. So it is important that the role of Parliament is included in as we negotiate the PPPs. And the other point also, Honorable Speaker, and as I conclude, is in order to safeguard the interests of the public, the committee was of the view that PPP contracts should not exceed a concession period of more than 30 years. And the committee's conversation was a generation lasts 30 years, or a generation is 30 years, such that if we enter into a PPP, we should not enter into a PPP that binds the next generation as well. So while there are many models and some are much less in time, for example, if you look at rehabilitate, operate, and transfer as a model, it is capped at not more than 15 years. Some are capped at not, the annuity-based design, build, finance, and operate is capped at not more than 12 years, and this is in the second schedule of the bill. The committee proposed that the upper limit for any concession should not be beyond 30 years. Honorable Speaker, and this has been spoken to, but lastly, I know that in the mind of many members you may be asking how Kenyan citizens will benefit from PPPs. The bill recognizes local content. We have already said that in Clause 77. And the bill provides that priority will be given to services provided in Kenya and also supplies manufactured in Kenya, provided they meet the specifications. Likewise, there will be mechanisms to ensure that there is technology transfer, mainly due to personnel that will be employed under the project company. So the project company is a company that is formed between the contracting authority and the private partner doing the PPP. So if we talk about the expressway, there's a private company or a project company between Kenha and the Chinese group. And when the staff are seconded to that project company, it is for purposes of technology transfer, so that as our private partners leave, we have enough capacity locally to be able to run the projects. There'll also be opportunities for corporate social responsibility programs, and the parties will be expected to comply with local content requirements provided under any other written law. There will also be opportunities for optimization for trade concessions for Kenyan goods and services outside Kenya. In order to achieve the aforementioned, the committee, on advice of Directorate, will issue the required guidelines. All the above issues were addressed in the amendments proposed by the committee, which shall be considered during the committee stage of the bill. I therefore, Honorable Speaker, with those many remarks, I second the bill, and thank you.
Honorable members, I go on to propose the question, which is that the Public-Private Partnerships Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2021, be now read a second time. Honorable Sankok? Is Honorable Kiaria here? I just skipped him because I cannot see him. He's first on top of the list. The next is Sankok.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support this very important bill. Honorable Speaker, let me start by thanking the committee led by the Iron Lady, Honorable Gladys Wanga, who is actually the Minister of Finance, and who brought a very important bill that will solve our economic problem that we are facing now as a country, not even only as a country, but there is an economic meltdown in the world courtesy of coronavirus pandemic. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Gladys Wanga and the committee did a very good job. They had public participation, which is well informed because I've gone through the report. And this is the bill that I can say is in front of this House properly, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, private-public partnership is paramount and is very important for our country, especially Kenya, not only because of what we are facing in the pandemic, but because of our Constitution 2010. Honorable Speaker, our Constitution 2010 places a very heavy burden on our government and our resources. Honorable Speaker, remember that in the previous regimes, our burden and in terms of wages was less because the 2010 Constitution, which started its operation during the Jubilee administration in 2013, gave us an extra burden of mouths that we must feed, wages that we must pay for the governors, the senators who are not there, women rep, Honorable Speaker, additional numbers of members of parliament, MCAs, CECs, Honorable Speaker, who are the CSS of county government, CSS who are not members of parliament, Honorable Speaker, CASs, Honorable Speaker, That is an extra whole lot that we had to maintain in terms of offices, infrastructure, and wages for themselves, wages for their workers, and Honorable Speaker, also to fuel their vehicles, Honorable. It was an additional burden to the government. Honorable Speaker, the infrastructure projects that Jubilee government impacted, Honorable Speaker, was also another very heavy burden for the taxpayers who are already overtaxed, Honorable Speaker. The infrastructure of 7,000 new kilometers of tarmac, Honorable Speaker, rural electrification projects, Honorable Speaker, free maternity, Honorable Speaker, free primary and secondary education, Honorable Speaker, were all extra burden that we had to bear. And you know, it is not the government, it is the taxpayers, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the standard gauge railway was also a massive burden. And Honorable Speaker, so many other projects and the allocation to county government, which now stand at 18%, Honorable Speaker. All these came from the same taxpayers that were here, Honorable Speaker, that were there even in the previous regime. So we had, as a government, to be innovative. And I thank the majority leader and chairman of the Finance Committee, Chair Lady, Honorable, is it Wanga, is it Nyasukuta or Nyasunda? Honorable Speaker, I thank them because this is now where we have to be innovative and think of ways of taking care of this extra burden without overburdening again our taxpayers, Honorable Speaker, who have remained constant throughout this period. Honorable Speaker, one of these very important ways have been used all over the world. That is private-public partnership, where the private sector come with their money, whether they come from within or outside this country, invest in roads like this expressway, Honorable Speaker. And then they charge just the way buildings, malls, apartments are built by private sector, and they charge rent, Honorable Speaker, to return their money, Honorable Speaker. In this partnership, Honorable Speaker, the government is the owner of the land, Honorable Speaker. And the private sector pump in their money and then charge in a duration of time so that they can return their investment together with reasonable amount of profit, and then again hand over to the country, Honorable Speaker. By doing this, we will be able to achieve a lot as a country. Honorable Speaker, also in this private-public partnership, we'll be able to create more jobs, Honorable Speaker. Because a pertinent question is that how many Kenyans are employed in the government? Almost 700,000, not even a million. How many Kenyans are in the private sector, whether informal or private sector? Honorable Speaker, there are 81%. Almost 15 million Kenyans are there, Honorable Speaker, working there and earning there, Honorable Speaker. By increasing the catchment area for the private-public partnership, that means we are bringing more investors, Honorable Speaker, who will create more jobs, Honorable Speaker, and very soon you'll find 90% of our workforce are actually in the private sector, because with all these investment, then we create more jobs, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I will be bringing amendments in the committee of the whole House so that we can be very specific on some timelines. Timelines on which the project must start, timelines on which the project must end, Honorable Speaker, and timelines on which we know that the private investor have already been able to benefit and refund or take their investment money and some reasonable amount of profit, so that we don't have that private-public partnership being open to eternity, that somebody who have built the Nairobi Expressway will be charging Kenyans for the next 200 years, Honorable Speaker. We have to know and judge from our traffic how much time do they require, so that they can also be able to negotiate in terms of prices pricing, in terms of attracting more people to use those roads, so that in a duration of time, they hand over the project back to us, because the land still remain ours. And this is an idea where, because the government own a lot of land, then the Honorable Speaker, I do really support this bill.
Honorable member, what's out of order? Who is the member, please? I cannot.
Thank you.
What's out of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have a lot of respect for our colleague, Honorable Sankok. But is the Honorable Member in order telling us that, or rather misinforming this House by saying that the constructor of the road will be charging us for the next 100 years?
Honorable Sankok, you may want to repeat what you said and substantiate.
Honorable Speaker.
So that you don't create unnecessary panic to Kenyans.
No, Honorable Speaker, you know, when you come to the House physically, but not emotionally and psychologically, some of these things may really bypass you. But for the benefit of the Honorable Member, I just said that we want a clause in which we know we put very good timelines on how many years, for instance, that the investor must have recovered their money with reasonable amount of profit. I use the word reasonable because sometimes you may be told that their profit is 100 times the principal invested money, which then will stretch to so many years. That is what we want to avoid on this. Honorable Speaker, and lastly, as I conclude, I will also engage with the committee so that in that particular committee that will be dealing with tendering and procurement of such private-public partnership or investment, we will be able to have a representative of persons with disabilities. Because according to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, nothing about us without us. In this express road, persons with disabilities also need to access. In the investment that will be put up by the public-private partnership, we also need access to by persons with disabilities, which is very paramount in terms of ramp, in terms of ease of accessing bus stations and others, Honorable Speaker. Just the way our standard gauge railway has been done, that you can walk with a wheelchair without being pushed, without being assisted, get into the train and go to wherever you are going, get out of the train without being assisted, and you can wheel yourself all through because of the ramp and because of the way such spaces are made. And there are also reserved places for persons with disabilities. So, Honorable Speaker, I do really support this particular bill, and I wish it will be implemented as soon as we pass as this House. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Member for...
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye QuickBin ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitizama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353, alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka, kwenye QuickBin ni bidhaa bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Je, unajua unaweza ukachukua bima ya mazishi? Chukua bima ya mazishi ili usiwe na mfadhaiko unapopatwa na msiba. Sera hii huhakikisha gharama zote za mazishi zinazingatiwa. Sasa umejua, IRA, bima bora kwa taifa.